Welcome to Fantasy Audiobook, Lord of the People. I awaken a talent every week. Chapter 81. At 6 o'clock, the red sun rises on time. Su Ming woke up very early this time, looking at Bai Ling, who was still sleeping beside him, with a proud face. He is also a foodie. Last night, he also brazenly proposed to spend the night at Ku Wanru's place, but Ku Wanru refused severely. Said that if he was not married, he would not be in the same bed, and then kicked him out. Fortunately, Bai Ling was with him, otherwise he really didn't know how to endure it. Another new day. After washing up, Su Ming went out to exercise. The summoning skills were refreshed today, but Su Ming was not in a hurry to summon and planned to save it. Yesterday, I used the blessing skill several times, and now my luck is a little less. After he knew the magic of the blessing skill, he planned to wait for 2 more days, and then he might be able to directly pray for the plane he wanted. Then summon the desired character. Huang San has fully recovered after a night's rest, and started to work hard early in the morning. Naturally, there is no such thing as Su Ming. After running for a while, Su Ming sat on the ground to rest. When I had nothing to do, I opened the ranking list that I hadn't watched for a few days. His power value is still far ahead, and the second place has exceeded 30,000. Su Ming is not surprised. After all, the seal of the Lord is not weak. However, when scrolling down, he suddenly saw a familiar name. Xizhuang Empire, Han Xizhuang. From the same school, Su Ming of course still remembers Han Xizhuang. But what makes Su Ming strange is, how did Han Xizhuang, AD rank Lord's seal, rank 10? The power value also exceeded 10,000. I am afraid that the territory has been raised to the 7th or 8th level, right? AD rank Lord's seal can be so outrageous. This person has another adventure. Or is it just the same name? Su Ming couldn't figure it out for a while. Of course Han Xizhuang himself does not have this ability, and now the businessman who runs the Xizhuang Empire is Ryadav. After relocating the territory, Ryadav used his own strength to force down 2 weak races. Then let them help build their own territory, and use the convenience of merchant status and the wealth they have accumulated to make the territory grow rapidly. In 2 days, the power has broken through 10,000. Moreover, the rising trend of the power value is still unabated, and it may be possible to reach the 10th level today. Of course, this speed also attracted the attention of other forces. But with Su Ming's lessons learned, everyone didn't think there was anything. In addition to desperately developing forces and keeping their rankings, there is nothing else to think about. But there are some people who try hard and can't do it. For example, Park Bo-sung of Bangzi Country. Resource production was reduced by 90%, which put him directly on the verge of collapse. If it wasn't for some accumulation before, I would be hungry now. And John Thompson of the Long Night Empire has also become honest this time, and he no longer has any evil thoughts of one kind or another. Start focusing on developing your territory. But one of the things he does most every day in his territory is digging stones. Because the terrain is repaired every day, he also has to repeat it every day. Not to mention time-consuming and labor-intensive, the collected stones are still very few. Now his territory is worthy of being upgraded to the 4th level. The ranking was also squeezed out of the top 30. But fortunately, his undead soldiers discovered the goblin group yesterday, and they also successfully captured dozens of goblins back. Now that the labor force in his territory is available, the next step is to catch up with the forces. But he didn't know that the goblin captured this time laid a hidden danger for the collapse of the forces behind him. Tia woke up very late, and as soon as she woke up, she began to look for Tushan Yaya. Although she knew that Tushan Yaya had left, she still didn't want to believe it, and she didn't even say goodbye. Yura began to take care of Tia's washing, without showing any strangeness. Seeing that Tia was secretly hurt, her heart suddenly moved. My lady queen, I see, then Tushan Yaya doesn't really like you. She didn't say a word when she left. Sao discord. Because she wants to give Tia to Su Ming, she must not let Tia always think of Tushan Yaya. So now is the best chance to make Tia suspicious of Tushan Yaya. After disintegrating Tia's feelings for Tushan Yaya, Tia can be willing to follow Su Ming later. No, Yaya won't be like this. Tia shook her head. Yura's 3 eyes and 2 words would not touch her. But next, Yura began to induce from many aspects. Analyze various factors. First, the race is different, then the faction is inherently hostile, then the time is too short, and finally the gender issue. Let me ask, which creatures like the same gender, but also depend on each other in life and death? At first, Tia still firmly believed that Tushin Yaya loved her, but after listening to Yura's words, her heart was shaken. Otherwise, how can the villain be difficult to guard against? Yura's current behavior is to play a villain, trying all kinds of methods. The purpose is to break Tia's psychology. She even thought that some methods were outrageous, but as soon as she said it, Tia would think about one or two things, and then give a 3-point letter. It is also in response to that sentence, women in love are very simple-minded. Since it's a spirit, it's the same. Yura was also delighted when she saw this. She did not expect this separation to be so smooth. She doesn't need to completely let Tia down on Tushin Yaya, she just needs to be suspicious. By the way, her lady queen, are you now, aren't you, or that one? Yura finally changed the subject and asked suddenly. Tia's mind didn't turn around for a while, and she wondered, which one? Quote. Yura approached Tia's ear and said something softly. Tia's face instantly flushed red, directly to the base of her ears. Yura, you are so strange today, how can you talk like this? Tia slapped Yura with a look of anger. I'm not doing this for you, her lady queen. Yura responded with a smile, and then asked, or not? When, of course it is. Tia responded. Although Yaya and I fell in love at first sight, we haven't developed to that point, at most. How at most? Yura asked eagerly, as if she did not know the result and would not give up. Oh, anyway, it's just not that, the others are almost done. Tia lowered her head after saying those words. My lady queen, you are confused, how can you trust an outsider so easily? Yura looked distressed. I believe that Yaya is a good person. No, she is a good demon, she will not let me down. Then why is she so anxious? It's only been 2 days since we met. I see, she is coveting your beauty, queen. Yura, I'll be angry if you say that again. Okay, lady queen, I won't say it, okay. Yura quickly stopped, and then muttered, if you have a lover, you will forget about us, the maids who have been with us for decades, alas. Yura, when Tia heard Yura's muttering, she said angrily. Yura immediately put on a smile. Tia's temperament is not so arrogant, and she is also a little playful in her heart. She is not interested in power and indifference to the development of the clan. In the past, it was because of this pure heart that he treated black elves, and he treated everyone equally. As a result, she said everything to the maids around her in the territory, feeling the same as her sisters. So now Fra can speak to Tia like this through the identity of Yura. In other words, the members of other forces spoke to the rulers of the forces like this, and they didn't know how to die. Yura chatted with Tia again, then said that she was going to get breakfast, and then retreated. After closing the door, he began to plan in his mind how to get in touch with Bai Ling. Bai Ling is also an indispensable part in her eyes. In addition, she also had an excuse to chat with Bai Ling in the past 2 days, which was considered to have left an impression on the other party and facilitated her follow-up plans. In fact, her plan is not too complicated. That is to say, give Tia an aphrodisiac first, and then let Bai Ling find out. In that case, Bai Ling could only contact Su Ming, and then Bai Ling himself got caught. After Su Ming came, he activated the magic circle, so the 3 of them were hit at the same time and locked in a room. What happens next can be imagined. The purpose of Bai Ling's existence is actually to make Su Ming unable to put on his pants and deny the account. But she didn't know that Bai Ling had now become Su Ming's person. After eating at noon, Su Ming began to upgrade the Lord's mansion. Yesterday and today, the resources sent by the Black Elves have reached millions, enough for a few levels. Continuously leveling up, Su Ming watched the changes in the Lord's mansion, and it was really cool. The style of the Lord's mansion has gradually changed from a steel technology style to a magical sci-fi style. It seems that this war and plundering is the fastest way to develop. Ah, but I don't seem to have any wars here. At most, an idiot leader came to send people's heads. Then a group of younger brothers came to pay the ransom. Hey, thinking of this, I seem to have to thank this elf queen for helping me develop. However, it is unfortunate for the Black Elves to have such a queen. After the main city was upgraded to level 15, the level cap of the territory was raised to level 20. Su Ming went up 2 more levels to the 17th level. Resources required for the next upgrade: stone 1 million, wood 1 million, iron ore 1.5 million, refined iron 500,000, magic crystal 500,000. Stop, the remaining resources are not enough to upgrade the Lord's mansion, so let's use it to upgrade other buildings. And this time there seems to be a lot more. It seems that the walls of the territory have also expanded many times, and there are many more shops that can be opened. It seems that this is going to develop to the island city. Also, this magic defense tower, and the generated energy crystal. Su Ming stood in the open space and looked at a huge light ball that contained a lot of magic elements floating above the Lord's mansion. Energy crystal. A shield is generated within the Lord's palace building, which can resist any form of damage. Defense value *100,000. 1000 can be automatically repaired every day. Daily consumption of magic crystal *1000 automatically open after level 20. After seeing the introduction, Su Ming understood. After the 20th level, it was automatically turned on, which made him feel a little strange. However, there is no shortage of magic crystals in his territory, and the daily output is tens of thousands. This is something that Su Ming is fortunate for. Then come out of the Lord's mansion and go to the 4 corners of the territory's city walls to check the defense towers. There is also a bead on the defense tower. The difference is that the bead is surrounded by lightning arcs. Magic defense tower. Release lightning attack, causing magic and physical damage to the enemy. Can be superimposed magic damage, 3000, physical damage, 1000. Su Ming took a look and saw that the attack range of the defensive tower was exactly half the distance from another defensive tower. This seems to appear at the 15th level. 15 is very special. Perhaps there were other hints that were ignored. Su Ming thought about it, and went to read the reminder just now. Really found it. Ding. Your territory has been successfully upgraded to level 15, the defense mode is turned on, and the range of the city wall will not be expanded in the future. Hint: the territory will enter the war mode when it reaches level 20, and you can start to manufacture powerful siege equipment to help the Lord to conquer the quartet. It turns out that, no wonder the energy crystal will automatically turn on after level 20. Entering war mode may also mean that other forces will begin to pay more attention to Shuiyu Island. However, there is no power around Shuiyu Island, which makes Su Ming worry. But Su Ming overlooked one point: there are not only living beings on land, but also living beings in the sea and sky. Although it is not around Shuiyu Island, it is not far away. Su Ming returned to the main hall of the Lord's mansion. On the way, he used up the recruitment times of the forge, and added a few more special residents. Not long after picking up the document, Ku Wanru came across it. Wanru, what's the matter? What can you do to me? Can't I come to see you if it's okay? Ku Wan gave Su Ming a soft white look, and suddenly there was a different kind of charm. Perhaps because of the change in her personality, her temperament has also begun to change in the past 2 days. Haha, I'm not happy. Su Ming smiled and said, come and sit here. As he spoke, he patted the wide chair he was sitting on, and moved his butt to the side. Ku Wanru's face turned red, but she did not refuse. It's natural to walk over and sit down. This is dealing with things. Ku Wanru took Su Ming's hand, leaned her head on his shoulder, saw several documents on the table, and asked curiously. Well, some information from Huang-san. I want to find something to do. Do you have any arrangements? Ku Wanru just glanced at the documents and stopped looking at them. She knew that these were not things she should touch. Although Su Ming will not shy away, she herself has her own measure. It's only been a few days, and you can't be idle. Then is there anything you want to do? Su Ming asked. Ku Wanru shook her head. Then let you take care of the affairs in the Lord's mansion. Su Ming thought for a while and asked tentatively. Ku Wanru, who was leaning on Su Ming's shoulders, raised her head instantly and frowned. Isn't this something I should take care of in the future? Ku Wanru is a typical male lead outside and female led inside. Yes, but this is not for you to manage in advance. Su Ming guessed that Ku Wanru would have this reaction, and explained, there is nothing else in the territory now. If you are still busy, you can communicate with your territory, control it remotely, and pass the time. You don't plan to take over my territory. Not yet, at least we have to wait until the Black Elves are dealt with. Okay, then I won't bother you. Ku Wanru got up and was about to leave. Su Ming grabbed it and asked, when will the wedding take place? This is your territory, of course it's up to you, can I refuse it? A trace of shame and anger appeared on Ku Wanru's face, and she didn't answer the question. Okay, I know. Su Ming smiled suddenly. Ku Wanru seemed to have thought of something, turned her head and kissed Su Ming's face. Then I'll go. Qian Haojiao, well, okay, then tonight. Seeing that the atmosphere was good, Su Ming hit the snake with a stick. Don't think about it, it's still the same sentence, if you don't go to church, you can't have the same room. Ku Wanru stretched out her finger and poked Su Ming's head, insisting on her face. Then he broke free from Su Ming's hand and quickly left the lobby. Seeing Ku Wanru leaving, Su Ming turned around and continued to read the document. Before I knew it, it was already evening, and Su Ming also moved from the lobby to the study room. Su Ming put down the document in his hand and suddenly thought of something. It seems that I haven't gone to the store to check it out. I have upgraded so many levels today, and I think I have a lot of permissions to unlock it. But when I went out, I saw the sky. Forget it, let's go again tomorrow. It's time for dinner, and Su Ming doesn't want to bother anymore. Stretching, I just saw Arena Nakiri approaching. Sir, it's time for dinner. Well, I'll go over here. After dinner, Su Ming wanted to take a bath and rest. Sir, do you need me to help you wash? Seeing that everyone was almost gone, Bai Ling suddenly blushed and asked. Su Ming gave Bai Ling a strange look. After thinking about it, a wicked smile appeared on his face. I was begging for mercy last night, why are you daring to provoke tonight? Me. Bai Ling was a little embarrassed to express his true thoughts. In fact, in her space backpack, there is a newly made dress. Just then, Yura came over. I have seen the Lord. Yura first saluted Su Ming. What's the matter? To treat elves, Su Ming is not so polite. My lord, I have something to do with Miss Bai Ling. I don't know if it's inconvenient. Yura glanced at Bai Ling and turned to ask Su Ming. Su Ming frowned. What's your business with her? Some private affairs between women. Yura kept silent. Seeing that Yura is still selling out, Su Ming is planning to refuse for Bai Ling. But I heard Bai Ling's voice. My lord, maybe there's something wrong, I'd better take a look. Just now, after Bai Ling offered to help Su Ming take a bath, she felt a little regretful. When I think about the tossing last night, I can't help but be afraid. She wanted to show Su Ming her new little clothes, but now she thinks it will be the same when she goes to bed. Anyway, now Su Ming and Ku Wanru are not in the same room, and she is the only woman for the time being. So she was not worried at all about not having a chance. Su Ming still looked at Yura suspiciously, always feeling a little strange, but he couldn't tell for a while. Yura, a maid who has served Tia for years, will encounter problems that cannot be solved. And it's not like there are no other maids who can discuss what to do with Bai Ling. But after hearing Bai Ling's agreement, Su Ming couldn't say anything else. He also nodded in approval. Watching the two leave, Su Ming called Huang-san and asked about Yura's situation. But there was no real doubt. Shaking his head, he thought that maybe he was thinking too much. Then went to take a bath. Yura took Bai Ling to Tia's room. Bai Ling asked curiously, Yura, what exactly are you looking for me for? The whole journey is mysterious. Yura smiled and said, some things, our queen may be afraid and want Miss Bai Ling to accompany her. You queen, Bai Ling frowned. What's the use of looking for me for what she's afraid of? Haha, miss, you will know in a while, in short, you want miss to help. When she walked to the bed, Bai Ling felt even more strange when she saw that Tia had already fallen asleep on the bed, her face was a little rosy. When he turned his head to ask Yura, he suddenly saw a pink mist coming towards him, and after a few seconds he was dizzy and unconscious. Yura supported Bai Ling on the bed. What I have prepared for this lord is a once-in-a-lifetime love that is made from strange herbs, and it works very quickly. What I'm giving you is the rosy pink powder, which works slowly but has a strong stamina. Both medicines work to preserve the mind, but the body Chaj is no longer under control. Yura looked at the medicine bottle in her hand, with a playful smile on her face. Fortunately, I was prepared in advance, otherwise, if I also got caught, the fun would be great. But I'm going to have pity on the two of you. It's estimated that I won't be able to get up tomorrow. But it's better this way. I can also have more time to escape, otherwise if I get caught, the end is probably not far from death. After thinking about the place, go back to the White Elves, and then hide your name. As long as you can witness the moment when the elves rise, even death is worth it. 5. Yura thought, walked out of the room and closed the door. Don't leave, just stay outside. She was also afraid of being stolen by others. In this case, the Black Elves would be completely over. Just relying on Bai Ling's humiliation alone, Su-Ming is enough to exterminate the Black Elves, and even implicate the White Elves later. So she didn't dare to be careless. Sophie and the others have been taken away by Yura for a long time, and they have been together for decades, so they trust Yura very much. Time passed little by little. After Su-Ming took a bath and lay on the bed for a long time, she couldn't help feeling anxious when she saw that Bai Ling hadn't come back. I had suspected Yura's strange behavior just now, but now that Bai Lingren is not seen, I naturally think more. No, I have to go and see what the hell is going on. It's taking so long. Su-Ming rolled over and got out of bed. At this moment, Bai Ling's communication suddenly called. Big. Sir. When the picture came, Bai Ling looked at Su-Ming with a flushed face, and her voice trembled. Bai Ling, what's wrong with you? Su-Ming was in a hurry when he saw this. This expression, no matter how you look at it, is not right. My lord, I'm so hot right now. As Bai Ling said, he wanted to rip off his clothes. Where are you now? Su-Ming asked anxiously. I am. Bai Ling seemed to be a little confused, looked around and couldn't remember where he was. At this moment, Tia, who was beside her, suddenly woke up. Tia's eyes filled with a strong sense of spring, and she had obviously had a spring dream just now. As for the protagonist in the dream, it goes without saying. Seeing Bai Ling on the bed, he immediately misunderstood and thought it was Tu Shan Yaya. He hugged it in one go. Grass. When Su-Ming saw Tia, she still didn't understand where they were. Tia, you are such a lunatic. It's fine to play with women, but now you dare to attack Lao Su's women. While talking, Su-Ming ran towards the room where Tia was being held. After the Lord's mansion has been upgraded, although it has also expanded a lot, it will not take long to run. A few minutes later, Su-Ming came outside the house. The first thing I saw was Yura. Without paying too much attention, he went straight to open the door. But it was bounced back by an invisible barrier. Su-Ming turned his head and immediately went over and pinched Yura's neck, and asked angrily, what did you do to Bai Ling? Open the door quickly. A terrified expression appeared on Yura's face, as if she didn't know anything. Lord. Sir, I don't know. The queen's name is Bai Ling, what is the lady doing? Su-Ming looked at Yura's appearance, and before she had time to think, she threw her directly in front of the door. Open the door. Ahem. Yes, my lord. Yura immediately opened the magic circle. Su-Ming kicked open the door and stepped in. The moment he entered the room, a formation rose up, and a purplish-blue smoke choked directly into Su-Ming's nose. It was too late for Su-Ming to cover his mouth and nose. Yura also closed the door directly at this time, and then opened the formation again. Hee, do you really think that being invincible on the island is really invincible? I have lived for hundreds of years, and there are at least dozens of ways to deal with you. Trapped, kidnapped, and after leaving Shuiyu Island, I don't believe that I can still be invincible. But who told you that your potential is so great, so big that even an old guy like me is tempted? As the spirit entrusted by the former king, I have to consider the future of the race. If I could be 70 or 80 years younger, maybe I'd do it myself. Tonight, it's a bargain for you, the queen has already offered it up, so it's not good for you to kick the Black Elves away again. Yura muttered to herself, and suddenly, she felt that the secret was not good. Why did the big man come? No, we have to leave quickly. Yura left in a hurry, not even bothering to eavesdrop here. But as soon as she moved, Shuchu was immediately noticed, and Shuchu immediately chased after her. Shuchu was not a talkative person either. Yura couldn't dodge in time, and was directly smashed by a hand. Ah! Yura screamed, and her face suddenly began to change. I was in a hurry, and at this time I suddenly thought of the teleportation scroll I got from Sophie, and I teleported away without hesitation. Shu-Chu smashed into the air with a hammer and couldn't help frowning. He glanced at it, and suddenly saw a black gem on the broken arm that had been smashed before. I don't know, but I picked it up and put it in the space backpack. Then start patrolling. After Su Ming was recruited, he also suffered a sudden mental shock, and his inner desire was provoked, and the shock became stronger and stronger. While still awake, I saw Bai Ling and Tia on the bed. At this time, the two women were nothing. Su Ming was stunned for a moment, and in a trance, he could no longer suppress the desire in his heart. Walk quickly to the bed. In one night, 2 flowers bloomed and were turned red. The high-pitched and tactful moaning continued until 4 in the morning. At 6 o'clock, Su Ming and the others were still asleep. An elf named Karen came out of Tia's house yawning, but it was strange that Yura could not be seen. Where's Yura? Isn't it the promised vigil? Why isn't she there? Kaylin stepped forward and knocked on the door, but there was no formation. Because Yura used magic crystals as energy when arranging the formation, it has now been used up, and the formation will naturally disappear. My lady, are you awake? Yura, are you inside? Colin called. But didn't get a response for a while. Karen called out a few more times, frowning. Push forward, and the door opens directly. Your Majesty, I'm in. Kaylin walked into the room lightly and closed the door. I looked around and saw no Yura. Strange, Yura isn't here either. Where did she go? Tia's bed was arranged with gauze curtains all around, so Kaylin didn't notice anything strange for a while. However, as he approached slowly, he suddenly saw tattered clothes on the ground. What is this? Clothes. Her lady queen doesn't wear this. Kaylin was puzzled because she made most of Tia's clothes, and she didn't remember using this kind of fabric. I walked over and wanted to wake Tia up. But suddenly, I saw more than one head under the quilt on the bed, and more than 2. Immediately, a violent impact hit the top of the head from bottom to top. Ah! A scream rang out. Su Ming on the bed was awakened and opened his eyes in disgust. But still have some headaches, like the sequelae after being drunk. Sitting up slowly, he rubbed his palm on his head, feeling a little awake. At this time, outside, Sophie, who was walking leisurely, heard screams and rushed over immediately. Colleen, what happened? Before the spirit arrives, the sound arrives first. Sophie kicked the door open and stepped in. When she came to Kaylin's side, she was stunned when she saw the scene in front of her. Su Ming was attracted by the knock on the door again and looked up at Sophie and Karen. Doubtful, and asked, "Who are you? Why are you here?" His voice was dry and hoarse, which made Su Ming uncomfortable for a while. Sophie didn't answer Su Ming, but looked at Kaylin and said, "Kaylin, you go out and guard the house, don't let other people get close." She couldn't judge what happened for a while, but it had happened, and she still knew the scene in front of her. So now have to consider the follow-up processing. Kaylin woke up from the shaking, and when she heard the order, she did it immediately. She is now in the middle of nowhere and doesn't know what to do. Sophie looked at Su Ming when she saw Kaylin go out. Su Ming also saw the arrangement of the surroundings clearly at this meeting, and also saw the 2 figures lying on the bed. Recalling the madness last night, Su Ming suddenly lost his mind. Sophie lowered her head, avoiding Su Ming's bare chest. Lord, I wonder if you can wake up our Lady Queen." Of course, Sophie knew about Tia and Tushin Yaya. But now, Su Ming was actually lying on Tia's bed, so Sophie couldn't judge for a while what their relationship was. But considering interests and race, Sophie still had to relook at Su Ming's identity. She also knew that in the future, the relationship between Shuiyu Island and the Black Elves would change greatly. The Queen of the Elves has already become Su Ming's woman, so what reason is there for the elves to be separated? But she didn't ask Tia about it, and she didn't dare to make a decision without permission. Su Ming tweeted Tia after hearing this. Did not wake up. Tia still closed her eyes, but her brows were frowning, very displeased. He murmured in his mouth, "Don't make trouble, you're sleepy." Then he moved, reached out and hugged one of Su Ming's thighs, buried his head in the quilt, and slept soundly on the pillow. Go and pour me a glass of water, and then step back, you may not be able to get up in a while. Su Ming knew the reason and gave Sophie an order weakly. I was awakened, although I was very upset, but now I am really not in the mood to lose my temper. Sophie clicked her tongue secretly, thinking in her heart, how violent was this last night? I didn't dare to bother any more, so I obediently went and brought a glass of water to Su Ming. With a glass of water in his throat, Su Ming immediately felt much more comfortable. Returning the cup to Sophie, he said, go down and watch, don't bother me until lunchtime, and talk about other things after waking up. Yes, Sophie took the cup with both hands and bowed back. Obey the instructions and stand outside the door with Karen. There was a storm in his mind, and he was briefly shocked, and then gradually ignited the soul of gossip with Kaylin. Su Ming lifted the quilt, looked at Tia's profile, and looked at Bai Ling who was sleeping. You are so cruel. Not only did you play with my woman, but now you actually put me to sleep. But I don't blame you for this, it looks like I was tricked last night. By the way, I seem to have forgotten to ask about something just now. Su Ming patted his head. At this time, the brain is not very bright, and the things that I think are all coming out one by one, and it is impossible to connect at all. In the end, I couldn't, I just didn't want to, I indented into the quilt and continued to sleep. After a few breaths, he fell into a deep sleep. You can see, it is really sleepy. Early in the morning, Ku Wanru did not see Su Ming's figure. When I asked Nakiri Arena, I found out that I didn't come for breakfast. I thought it was because he and Bai Ling were too indulgent last night, so they ignored it for a while. After talking to Huang San, he went to the territory to recruit a few women to clean the Lord's mansion. At the same time, carpenters and tailors were also brought in to arrange all the places. Since Su Ming had given her the right to manage the Lord's mansion yesterday, she didn't want to disappoint Su Ming. But after a busy morning, Su Ming still didn't get up, and he was immediately angry. What happened? Didn't you sleep last night? He doesn't know what harm this will do to your body. She could tolerate Su Ming's occasional indulgence, but she would not allow him to be so intemperate. So I made up my mind that after Su Ming got up, he must preach hard. When it was time for dinner, Sophie knocked on the door on time. The three people on the bed also slept enough, and Yo-Yo woke up. For a while, Tia and Bai Ling hugged each other and shrunk to the foot of the bed together while covering the quilt. Su Ming was stunned for a moment. They all have memories of last night, so no explanation is needed now. In the end, it was Su Ming who couldn't help but asked, why did you frame your maid? Tia shook her head. Seeing Tia's appearance, Su Ming frowned and asked again, are you sure she is from your elves? Tia nodded, but after thinking about it, he shook his head again. Logically speaking, the elf clansmen shouldn't count on her, so she wasn't sure for a while. Su Ming's head was big for a while. Seeing Tia like this, it was obvious that she had been kept in the dark from the beginning, and she could not get the slightest information from her. If you want to investigate Yura's identity, you have to find another way. Su Ming thought, no longer tangled. Get dressed and get up, and said to Tia, from now on, you are my woman, do you understand? Su Ming has no feelings for Tia, but he doesn't want to be put on a hat, so some things must be solemnly declared. When Tia heard this, she immediately became nervous. With a look of resistance, he said, no, I can't be your woman, she. But halfway through, seeing Su Ming's eyes, he stopped. Seeing that Tia didn't say anything, Su Ming's face looked better. Asked, do you want her to die? She, of course, was referring to Tushin Yaya. Su Ming didn't want to talk too much, and made a direct threat. The effect is outstanding. I will recruit the Black Elves later. If you don't want to see more blood, you can ask Sophie and the others to arrange it yourself. With this relationship now, Su Ming took the Black Elves as his own power of course. Since it is a solicitation, there will naturally be some who refuse to solicit. Such elves, if they are sensible, can leave on their own. If you don't know physiognomy, you can only wait for the next life to be reincarnated. Well, I will tell Feifei and the others. Tia is just lazy, not stupid, she can still see clearly the benefits and the benefits. Get up, it's time to eat, Su Ming said, and suddenly glanced at a corner of blood that was exposed under the quilt. Clean up the sheets yourself and change your room tonight. When Su Ming appeared at the dinner table with Tia and Bai Ling, everyone was a little surprised. Tushan Yaya is no longer here, why did Tia come? Looking at Su Ming, it is self-evident. Ku Wanru pulled Su Ming to the main seat and sat down, and asked softly, what's going on? What else can happen? As you can see, it's just that the process is a bit complicated, I'll explain it to you later. Su Ming also shook his head helplessly. This meal, Tia was a little embarrassed. Fortunately, Su Ming didn't leave anything behind after eating, so she left quickly. In the side hall, Ku Wanru brought Su Ming a cup of tea. With a dissatisfied face, he said, I know you want to open a harem, I don't object to this now, but you have to look at people, right? What is Nadia, the queen of the hostile force Black Elves, why are you going to provoke her? And I can hear that this woman has something to do with the one you punished, so you can do it too. Listening to Ku Wanru's words, Su Ming smiled wryly, took a sip of tea and rinsed his mouth. Only then did he explain. Last night, a maid next to Tia came to Bai Ling and said that there was something wrong, and finally Bai Ling passed by. I waited for a long time and wanted to find Bai Ling. It happened that Bai Ling called and communicated, and then I saw her in Tia's room. It was also my carelessness. Relying on the fact that there was no disaster on the island, I ran over to find her alone, and was tricked by the maid. In the end, the three of us slept in the same bed, and the scene just now happened. So, this is really not what I think, you have to understand me. Ku Wanru looked at Su Ming and said angrily, understood, it's not that you have benefited. You can secretly have fun. Then why did the maid plot against you? Did you catch it? Su Ming shook his head. No, Shu Chu bumped into it last night and broke her hand, but she ran away and left this behind. Saying that, Su Ming took out a black gem. Ku Wanru picked it up to check. Pretend gem. A peculiar gem that can be disguised as anything, with a 7-day duration and a 1-day cooldown. This gem is still a piece of equipment. Ku Wanru was also amazed. So, that maid is basically someone else's disguise. As for the identity, I have a little bit of eyes. Who do you suspect? To be able to stay by Tia's side for a few days without being discovered, is obviously someone who is very familiar with the maid, and also knows Tia very well, so it can only be from the Black Elves. 5. Su Ming briefly analyzed. The queen of the elf clan is calculated, either to have a grudge against her, or to have other purposes. I asked Tia, and she said that she had not punished any elves during her tenure, so it would not be revenge, but other purposes. As for what this purpose is, I don't know. It's better to get the elves to investigate, and the elves will cooperate in this matter. 5. Don't worry, that is to say, what you ask, there will be results soon. The elves did not encounter any wars, and even the grudges with Shuiyu Island were only negotiated by force and deterrence, and there was no real swordsmanship. So it's easy to find the two missing sprites. One of the missing ones was naturally the maid Yura, and the other was the one in disguise. You're just not careful. If that person wants to harm you, it's up to you what to do. Ku Wanru couldn't help complaining, and asked, then how do you plan to arrange this Tia? Su Ming said casually, let's talk about using her to recruit the Black Elves first, and then we have to wait until Tushan Yaya is dealt with. Ku Wanru nodded in agreement. The power of the Black Elves is a big boost for Su Ming, and it should really be used now. Tushan Yaya, what are you going to do with it? This is really difficult to handle. If you kill it, then Tia will become emotional, causing instability in the Black Elves. But if you leave it alone, Tushan Yaya is too threatening, and she is afraid that she will cause trouble. Dilemma. Seeing Su Ming frowning, Ku Wanru thought about it, and suddenly said, I have an idea, what do you think? Oh, let's hear it. Even if you took that Tushan Yaya, they are all your women, and then whatever they do, their previous affairs will not matter. Hearing Ku Wanru's approach, Su Ming looked at her in surprise. Wanru, are you serious? Of course, why else would I say it? It's not like you. Why doesn't it look like that? Do you have to be happy if I oppose you opening a harem? Forehead. Su Ming was speechless for a moment. It seems impossible to refute this. Ku Wanru looked at Su Ming's appearance and pouted, oh, man. Since you don't like this method, think about it for yourself, I'll go see Tia, it's a newcomer anyway, I have to express it. After saying that, Ku Wanru stood up and suddenly thought of something. He asked, "What time did you go to bed last night?" What? Su Ming was stunned for a moment, not expecting Ku Wanru to ask this question. "Ah, what? I'm concerned about your body. What should I do if you wear yourself out?" When she said this, Ku Wanru's face couldn't help but turn red. It is still difficult for her to grow up quickly like an adult, and some emotions are still uncontrollable. Su Ming should have been happy to hear this, but the question was about the time, and he really couldn't answer for a while. In the end, he could only bite the bullet and say, "I don't know what time I slept, it's just a tossing, 5 or 6 hours. What? Ku Wanru suddenly widened her eyes and walked over to slap Su Ming. "Are you dying?" Su Ming reached out to catch Ku Wanru's hand, and explained, "Didn't you say it before? This is a trick, the effect of the drug is so long, what can I do?" "Alas, you." Ku Wanru also frowned and warned. "Then arrange our wedding date to next week, you also just abstain from for a week, and take care of your body." "Okay, it's all up to you." Su Ming smiled and nodded in agreement. "But if you really want to abstain from for a week, you may not be able to do it. Because Tu Shan Yaya will be back in 6 days, according to Ku Wanru's method, this desire cannot be restrained for 7 days. After Ku Wanru left, Su Ming took care of the affairs and walked towards the store. "I agreed to go to the store today to see the new products, and naturally I will not forget." When I came to the store, Yu Xuanji was dozing off, and a clerk was cleaning the shelves. Su Ming came to the counter and knocked. Hearing the movement, Yu Xuanji immediately woke up. But when I saw Su Ming, I was stunned for a moment, then my face turned red, thinking of the question Su Ming asked before. I thought to myself, "Are you here to ask about the results? But is this too urgent? It hasn't been 3 days, and I haven't slept well because of this." There was a lot of thinking in my mind at the moment. Before Su Ming could speak, he said, Lord, you are here too soon. I'm not ready yet, can I wait a few more days?" Hearing Yu Xuanji's words, Su Ming's mind didn't turn around for a while. What did she say? However, seeing Yu Xuanji's face turning red, he recalled the last time she ran away when we met. Perhaps it is related to the recruitment that he proposed last time. Shaking his head, he didn't want to talk more about this, it felt pointless. From Su Ming's point of view, Yu Xuanji can't make up his mind now, and most of them just want to delay time. It was still his previous thoughts, he and Ben never expected Yu Zhan to agree. "So I think Yu Xuanji thinks too much. I didn't come to see you this time for that, but to see if you have any new goods here." "Huh, oh." Yu Xuanji was surprised and quickly reacted. Suddenly I felt a little lost, because Su Ming's tone and eyes were too dull. Is this a loss of interest in her? Is it because there was no direct response last time? But this change of heart is too fast, right? For a while, Su Ming was labeled a scumbag in Yu Xuanji's heart. Of course there are new goods, and there are many more. I will take you to see the adults. There were other thoughts in his heart, but Yu Xuanji didn't have the slightest change on his face, and he was still smiling. "No, you give me a catalog of goods, preferably with an introduction." Su Ming came to ask about the new goods just to see if there was anything that could be used, but he didn't have the time to check them one by one. Okay, of course, there is a list of goods in the store, and Yu Xuanji is not ambiguous, so he took a copy and handed it to Su Ming. Looking through it, I found that there are hundreds of more goods. He said casually, "You have a lot of things. This is all thanks to the Lord." Yu Xuanji's habitual commercial touts. "Oh, since that's the case, is there any discount?" Su Ming looked at Yu Xuanji with a smile. It seems to be saying, "Don't engage in those false things, if you want to come to some practical things." Yu Xuanji groaned in his heart, secretly saying that it was not good. This fool lord is here to exploit her, a small businessman. It was also because she was too careless that she was confused by Su Ming's casual tone. "Sir, are you doing this well? Don't worry, I'm not prostituting you for nothing. I may buy a lot of things for a while. How about you get a 30% discount? 30% off." Yu Xuanji thought for a moment that he heard it wrong. 30% off. Why do you come with your mouth open? You're better off prostituting me. The 30% discount is a bit too much. I'll give you a 10% discount, what do you think? Yu Xuanji wanted to scold his mother. Secret thought. You are a lord, are you so busy every day? You don't have to manage the territory. Is it interesting to come to a small shop and bully a small boss? If Su Ming heard this, she would definitely reply to her, I'm really free. Then take a step back and get 20% off. It is good. Yu Xuanji agreed immediately. With a 20% discount, as long as she sells more than 200,000 items, she can make a profit. Su Ming also said before that this time I bought a little more things, obviously compared to the last time. The transaction amount must exceed 200,000, so she is not worried. Well, then you should pack all the gems and the like in this catalog now. Seeing Yu Xuanji's agreement, Su Ming's first thing was to buy materials for making weapons. These gems are new products, and there are still many types, but most of them are strengthening gems and auxiliary boosting gems. The most conspicuous and rarest are lucky gems, which are only 5. The price of each gem starts at 500 gold coins, and the most expensive lucky gem is 30,000 gold coins. It doesn't look expensive, but be aware that Su Ming is a one-time emptying. Hundreds of gems, this is not a small number. Okay. After a brief stupor, Yu Xuanji immediately smiled. It's not that she has never seen such a transaction, but she was so happy to see Su Ming being so straightforward this time. Soon, a dozen boxes of gems were brought by her and placed in front of Su Ming. A total of 355 pieces, the total price is 450,000, and you are 360,000, sir. 360,000, after deducting the cost and turning it over, she herself still has tens of thousands of profits. So Yu Xuanji was overjoyed. Su Ming smiled and said, don't worry, all your fine sandalwood is used to make equipment, right? Yes, but this number is a bit small. Originally, it would not come out until the adult's territory reached level 20, and there are also these radium stones and forged steel. Level 20. Then why did it show up in advance? Yu Xuanji smiled mysteriously, looking quite proud. Su Ming knew that this was what Yu Xuanji did through his own abilities. The number is as small as it is, and it is good to be able to create 2 or 3 instruments. Su Ming looked at these things, and his heart was also hot. The siege equipment obtained from the pirates before was a little weak and needed to be dismantled and re-refined. With these materials, there should be 10 powerful weapons. In this way, after recruiting the Black Elves, they are not afraid that they will cause trouble in the territory. There are also these potions and drawings. Each potion comes with 1,000 bottles, and each drawing comes with 1 copy. Alchemists can refine potions, but due to the limitation of materials, the output is not high. If you have drawings, a draftsman can also come up with them, but it takes a long time to draw, so it is better to buy a copy and let them copy it. Sir, are you sure? Yu Xuanji hesitated. If she asked Su Ming to take out more than 500,000 gold coins, she believed it was still possible. But now these things add up to millions. Especially the potion, this thing seems cheap, only 1 or 200 gold coins. But the quantity is huge, 1,000 bottles of each type, and now there are only 7 or 8 kinds. This is 7 or 8 million gold coins. All added up, that is, more than 1.5 million gold coins. So she was very worried that Su Ming would not be able to come up with so much money. Su Ming seemed to see Yu Xuanji's worries, but he didn't react too much, he just mentioned to wake up the pirate booty. Yu Xuanji immediately reacted and secretly said that he had taken a photo. Immediately call the clerk to clear the goods. This clerk was arranged by Su Ming to Huang San, a girl named Kaihei with agile hands and feet and a quick mind. Under the circumstances of Yu Xuanji's disgust in the past 2 days, Yu Xuanji's view of her has been changed abruptly. Kaihei just glanced at the goods, and then blurted out, a total of 1,586,500 gold coins. Su Ming and Yu Xuanji were both stunned and looked at Kaihei in surprise. Su Ming even threw it away to check. Name, Kaihei. Age, 16 years old. Identity, ordinary people. Level 11. Occupation, store clerk. Skills, bright eyes, orchid heart passive. Hiss. Seeing this panel, Su Ming couldn't help but wonder. Is this the common people? In terms of labor, maybe, because this is obviously a smart talent. The most important thing is that Kaihei actually has 2 skills, one of which is passive. This feels outrageous. What Huang San gave before only mentioned the character of this person, which met the requirements, but Huang San did not explain the specific circumstances. Maybe he was busy and forgot. There are so many things every day, it is understandable. Su Ming thought to himself. It seems that he has to summon a housekeeping talent to help Huang San share the burden. Huang San also really needs to be shared. What I said before is okay, it's just territorial internal affairs. But now there are more black elves, another huge burden, and they are separated from Shuiyu Island. The discount is 1,269,200, and the whole amount is 1,260,000, sir, what do you think? Seeing Kaihei being so capable, Yu Xuanji was also happy. At the same time, he also reported an accurate data. Su Ming nodded to Kaihei, then turned to look at Yu Xuanji. Okay, this is a deposit of 500,000 yuan, and I will ask someone to pick it up with the materials and then I will make up the rest. Knowing the store's receipt price, Su Ming took out a lot of materials and 200,000 gold coins. Seeing that there was another pile of materials, Yu Xuanji was no longer surprised. Now she wondered if Su Ming had dug up some treasures of materials, otherwise, where would there be so many monster materials? She is not unfamiliar with the powerful Lord's seal talent, but she has never heard of one that can double the explosive material, so she didn't think about it for a while. Okay, then welcome the Lord to come next time. Those who send money are all the gold masters, so naturally they cannot be neglected. Yu Xuanji respectfully gave Su Ming a salute, with a smile at the corner of his mouth and winking eyes. Su Ming's heart trembled. He put away the gems and some materials, and when he turned around, he said to Kaihei, "Work hard." "Yes, my lord," Kaihei responded with a smile. Yu Xuanji's smiling face suddenly disappeared, and his face turned bitter. What does Su Ming mean? Work hard, are you trying to monitor yourself? Yu Xuanji really liked the little girl Kaihei, and wanted to ignore her identity, and planned to slowly cultivate her into his own. But now, I was completely ruined by Su Ming's words. Looking at Su Ming's eyes became resentful. Excellent talents are welcome everywhere, even if they are hostile forces, there will be people who are tempted to win over them. Yu Xuanji was moved to want to harvest as his disciple. Su Ming doesn't care about Yu Xuanji. He asked Kaihei to help him for surveillance, and it was a blatant surveillance. Seeing that Kaihei and Yu Xuanji get along very well, Su Ming just spoke out and tried it out. The result did not disappoint him. Kaihei was still his own. No way, Tu Shan Yaya is a lesson from the past, so Su Ming began to doubt that loyalty is not so absolute. But come to think of it, Huang San also went through many inspections when selecting people. Without stopping, I went straight out of the store. Xiao Kaihei, do you feel that your lords hate it so much? As soon as Su Ming left, Yu Xuanji started to speak ill of him on the back. No, I feel that adults are very kind. HMPH, that's why you don't know, he shows no mercy to me, a small businessman. Oh, the store manager, didn't your lord come to deliver business to you this time? Don't be angry with him. Kaihei came to Yu Xuanji's side, held Yu Xuanji's hand, and said coquettishly. Being reminded by Kaihei, Yu Xuanji's attention immediately turned to money. Be happy again. A glimmer of light flashed in Kaihei's eyes. I knew that the store manager, a money fan, would eat this set. Both the blacksmith shop and the alchemy workshop have been separated from the forge and have been built separately. Give gems and materials to blacksmiths and others, and let them craft instruments. The drawings were given to the draftsman and they were copied. Give the potion to the alchemist and let them purify it. After doing this, Su Ming contacted Chen Dabing again and asked him to take someone to the store to pick up the goods. As for the agreed final payment, is there any reason not to delay the final payment? Su Ming's behavior, and later Yu Xuanji asked Su Ming to make a contract every time he did business with Su Ming. It is also self-eating. After everything was explained, Su Ming received a communication from Huang San. When they came to the beach, Huang San, Shu Chu and others were here. This is to establish a connection between Shuiyu Island and Green Forest. Because of Sophie, the great general, the elders of the elves quickly accepted the plan of establishing a teleportation circle. Just finished now. Sir, the teleportation circle has been built. It belongs to the medium teleportation circle and can transmit 50 people at a time. Huang Sanxiang reports to Su Ming. Su Ming nodded, then looked at Sophie. Sophie knew what Su Ming wanted to ask, and said, "The matter has been arranged, and the 4 generals are investigating the missing members of the clan." Su Ming asked, "What was your clan's reaction when they heard that they were being recruited?" "Except for the clansmen who are absolutely loyal to the queen, most of the others have opposition." Sophie looked worried. Obviously the situation was not optimistic. Hearing this news, Su Ming looked as usual. "Shu Chu, follow Huang San and take 50 soldiers with you." "Wait a moment." Hearing Su Ming's words, Sophie was in a hurry. Hastily said, Lord, can you let me persuade again? As long as you can agree to one thing, I am confident that the clan will agree to be recruited." Su Ming stopped, looked at Sophie, and said, "Tell me about it." "As long as you agree to let our black elves remain independent in the territory, I believe that many clansmen will no longer have any opinions." Sophie looked at Su Ming pleadingly, and now Su Ming is also the king of the black elves, and has the power to kill his people. Su Ming ignored Sophie's gaze, but also began to seriously consider Sophie's proposal. Independence, of course, is the right of race to enjoy autonomy. Now, what he needs is the resources and labor of the black elves, and whether he is truly loyal to them is secondary. He didn't really plan to let all the black elves he recruited before, so Su Ming didn't have much dislike for Sophie's proposal. This choice, although there is the possibility of leaving hidden dangers. But Su Ming is confident that it won't take long for him to use his absolute strength to subdue all the black elves. Su Ming responded, "Okay, I promise you, Shu Chu and Huang San will come with you, and the soldiers will not take them." "Thank you, my lord." Turning on the teleportation circle, Su Ming watched Huang San and others disappear. Back to the lord's mansion, took out a lot of skill books and started researching. Now it's time to consider what's going on outside of Shuiyu Island. After having been counted once, Su Ming realized that it was not an option to stay on the island by himself. It is true that there are no disasters and no disasters, but if a person with a heart takes himself out of Shuiyu Island without harming his own life, the situation will be bad. So I have to consider learning some life-saving skills. You even have to learn the skills to compensate for the damage. After all, the maximum effect of the blood-changing curse is 120%. When the opponent has damage reduction, it is impossible to achieve an instant kill. At this time, it is necessary to make up for the damage. After all, the blood exchange curse consumes a lot of mana, and repeated use always feels a bit lossy. Now Su Ming still has 2 skill points, and he can just learn 1. After picking and choosing, Su Ming finally chose Shadow Escape and High Fury. Shadow Money Escape. Use the skill to turn into an invisible shadow, temporarily invincible, increase 300 plus 10 asterisk level point speed, last for 10 seconds, cool down for 10 minutes. This skill was exploded from the 10th level dungeon Boo's Nether Shadow Leopard, an escape skill. I heard that this skill caused Chen Dabbing and others a headache. Black Fury. Consumes 300 points of rage, all attack damage plus 30%, all negative effects plus 20%, damage received plus 10%, lasts 10 minutes, cools down for half an hour. This skill was blasted from the pig head. Because no suitable damage skills have been found, they are all used by soldiers, and most of them require weapons. All Su Ming chose this, which is considered to increase the damage of the Curse of Exchange Blood. In addition to some of the titles I obtained before, I should be able to protect myself. Su Ming sighed helplessly. In the final analysis, the level is too low and the strength is too weak. Tomorrow's luck should be enough. First, pray to summon a housekeeping talent. If you can still pray, then summon high-end combat power. Su Ming thought to himself. After 2 days of hard work, John Thompson finally climbed back to the top 20. Although he has few stone resources, once he has output, there are still many bonuses from talents. But before he was happy, he suddenly discovered something desperate. There is another new force in Donglan continent rushing into the top 5. That force is the Xizhuang Empire. Heavy gift crab. What kind of beasts are in Donglan continent? The top 10 have 5 seats, and the top 5 have 3 seats. How do you play this new power competition? Almighty God, come and punish these stray dogs. Yes, now John Thompson seriously suspects that Su Ming and Ryadov are linked. Otherwise, Why are the two rising so similar? Unknown, suddenly appeared, and then went straight to the sky. Don't you dare to be so waved when you open it. It's decided, the next curse will be used by this Xizhuang Empire. John Thompson made up his mind. Since there is no way to take the first and second, it is aimed at the newcomers. There are many people who think like him. They also noticed anomalies on the leaderboard. The top 10 Donglan mainland accounted for half. The first is Su Ming, the second is Zhang Susu, the fifth is Ryadov, the seventh is Ji Yu Xingning, and the ninth is Jinyuya. All are the lords of the Dragon Kingdom, and there is not a single one of the Bangzi Kingdom and the Cherry Blossom Kingdom. For the first, there is no effect. For the second, it doesn't make much sense. Instead, it was aimed at the new fifth, which made them feel a little more important. Because in their opinion, this fifth has the potential to rush to the top of the list. Instead of looking at him in the upper position, it is better to give him a slash and half. By this time, even the sea-level Lord Seal Awakener had successfully reached the third level, and the secret connection between the various forces had been established. So this time the plan against Ryadov will be another siege. In the waters 400 nautical miles to the east of Shuiyu Island, there are 36 islands, large and small. There are a group of vicious pirates living on each island, collectively known as the 36 Thieves. Among them, the island closest to Shuiyu Island is called Pig King Island. Unfortunately, there are very few pirates on the island now. Hai Laoguo, when do you think the leader will come back? A snake-headed pirate with a scar on his face asked another one-eyed pirate. How do I know? You ask me and I ask who to go. Isn't it so uncertain every time I go out to pick up the goods? But I'm always a little worried. You don't know, my eyelids have been twitching recently. Do you think there will be an accident with the leaders? As far as you talk a lot, can you worry less about it? You rotten snake and a crow's mouth, the leader and the others will have to be told by you that something goes wrong. How can it be so evil? Hai Laoguo, don't scare me. Evil sect, you forgot what happened to us before. Didn't you just talk nonsense and hit that demon directly? After Hai Laoguo said this, he was so angry that he immediately went to bang bang with 2 punches, and then kicked the rotten snake again. I didn't even know that the devil was around at the time, so I just casually said, I never thought she really appeared. The rotten snake did not dare to be angry, and stood up aggrieved. Shut up, I suspect that the devil is around now, don't talk nonsense again. Hai Laoguo looked around nervously. The rotten snake was also shocked, and immediately covered his mouth. Ah. Well, then I'll shut up. After watching it for a while, and seeing nothing out of the ordinary, Hai Laoguo was relieved. I don't know what the devil thinks. A dragon clan aloof, who doesn't enjoy himself, runs around all day. Could she be looking for something? The rotten snake couldn't help but respond. What is missing from the dragon race? Do you think it's the same as us? Did you eat the last meal but not the next? Hai Laoguo pouted, disagreeing with rotten snake's words. The rotten snake smiled awkwardly. In order to ease the embarrassment, he turned his head and looked towards the sea, but when he saw it, he narrowed his eyes. He stretched out his hand to pull Hai Laoguo and shouted, Hai Laoguo, look, what is that? A small boat. Hai Laoguo looked at the reputation, and really saw a small boat with a figure lying on it. At this time, the voice of the rotten snake was heard again, huh? Why does the ship look like the second leader? They are all wolf heads, are they relatives? Snapped. Hai Laoguo directly slapped the rotten snake on the head and scolded, idiot, that's the second leader, hurry up and save the big leader and they have an accident. There are many mysterious aquatic creatures living under the deep sea between 30 Chaj, 6 islands and Suigetsu Island. There are 2 races that rule these aquatic creatures, one is the merman and the other is the mermaid. It is also for this reason that most of the creatures in the aquarium now choose to evolve into the human head fish body. Inside the underwater palace built by the sharks, more than a dozen mermen with steel forks lined up on the side, and a merman wearing a crystal crown lay on his side on the water jade bed. Below are 3 mermen who alternately hand over to report. Your Majesty, we have already found out that the forces on Shuiyu Island are now integrating with the Black Elves. And there seems to be some tacit agreement between the 2 forces, and there is no conflict. The Shuiyu Island force is developing rapidly. In the past few days, it has been promoted to level 5. I'm afraid it will not be long before it will grow to level 30. They are now integrated with the Black Elves, and they may grow faster. 20 years ago, when the Black Elves moved to the Gore Forest, we had a conflict with them. This time, the subordinates suspected that they were cooperating with the Lord of the human race to carry out a plan against our mermaid race. Also, please make a decision as soon as possible, let us rush to kill the Black Elves again. The talking merman crawls on the ground and asks the King of Merman for his orders. Also please make an early decision, Your Majesty. The other two sharks also agreed. The Shark King pondered, but did not respond, tapping his fingers on the jade bed, still thinking. Before the Black Elves relocated to the Gore Forest, the sea area near Shueyu Island was owned by the mermen. But in several battles, the merpeople did not take advantage. The mermen are underwater forces, proficient in the art of water defense, but have no reserves in terms of siege equipment. Therefore, fighting against the Black Elves on land is not at all advantageous. The Gore Forest was occupied by the Black Elves, and the mermen did not want to hand over the territory to the Black Elves, so they finally chose to withdraw from that sea area. When I came here, I concentrated on confronting the mermaid. The mermen and murlocs did not deal with each other, and they have been fighting for hundreds of years. I heard that the mermaid has a distinguished guest. The Shark King suddenly asked another question. The three mermaids stood up and looked at each other, wondering why the Mermaid King asked this question. One of the mermen replied, Yes, Your Majesty, that distinguished guest is His Highness Amikiri of the Dragon Clan. How long have you been here? Why didn't you come to report? I came here yesterday. When my subordinates reported to you, Your Majesty was taking a nap. What useful information can the spies and the merman deliver? The Shark King looked calm, but he was worried in his heart. Yimi Kili, one of the 3 dragon creatures in Donglan continent, is a level 70 creature. Such a strong man went to the hostile mermaid to be a guest, how could this not make the King of Mermaids worry? A merman below guessed the worry of the Merman King. Your Majesty, His Highness Tia of Tianhe City has issued a statement to the whole continent before, that the Dragon Clan will not interfere in any power disputes. 5. So I think, Your Highness Amikiri don't have to worry. After all, Her Royal Highness Tia is Her Highness Amikiri's sister. And Her Royal Highness Amikiri has always been on good terms with the Queen of the Mermaid race, so this time it should be just for a visit. The Merman King shook his head, obviously not very satisfied with the merman's explanation. That person's temper has always been weird, and you can't jump to conclusions until there is no news. The mermen have developed underwater for hundreds of years, but limited by their territory and resources, they have always been only level 60 forces. Moreover, this level 60 can only have the same level of powerful combat power in water, and on land, it is estimated that it will directly shrink by 20 levels. This is also the reason why the Black Elves were evenly matched with the mermaids when they first arrived. The highest level of the mermaid race is level 60, so of course you have to be extremely cautious when facing the level 70 Amikiri. What's more, it is a high-level creature like the dragon family, one person can destroy the existence of a city. Then, what should the forces on Shueyu Island do? The merman below asked. The Merman King thought for a while and then said, Leave it alone, isn't it not yet at level 20? Wait until level 20 to talk about it. It is not that the characteristics of the human lord power are unknown. When you reach level 20, the upper limit of the level will be directly raised to level 50. At that time, we will join other forces to directly destroy it, and also destroy the Black Elves. When the merman below heard this, he immediately thumped his hands. Yeah. Why didn't I consider this issue? Going now, it will only be suppressed by the binding spirit Luotian Great Array. But when he reaches level 20, the banner of hegemony flies in his territory, and then many of our high-level soldiers will be able to run rampant. In addition to the siege equipment that has been specially strengthened in the past few years, it will be easy to destroy the Black Elves at that time. And then that force will still attract hatred, maybe we don't need to take action. Your Majesty is wise. The merman bowed his head and bowed. The other two echoed. The Shark King was tired of hearing these words, and his interest was lacking. Go on down, remember to report as soon as you have the news of His Royal Highness the Dragon Clan. Yes, Mermaid Palace. The biggest difference between the mermaid and the merman is that the mermaid has no males. There are both men and women in the merman, but only women in the mermaid. It is no exaggeration to say that the mermaid is an underwater daughter country. Yesterday, Amikiri came to the mermaid palace with an injury. After resting for a day and a night, she recovered completely. At this time, she was complaining to the queen of the mermaid tribe, Hermes Hanyo Sistana. Sister Nana, you don't know, I am miserable. Amikiri was lying in Sistana's arms. While eating the fruit, he said aggrievedly, yesterday, I was planning to go to the Black Elves to visit Sister Tia, but I ran into a fox on the way. 5. That fox is so strange, it's not a fox head, and I don't know how it evolved. Sister Nana, do you think those human races made it again? They always make a lot of weird things. As she spoke, Amikiri couldn't help but deviate. Sistana gently massaged Amikiri's temples and smiled. That's right, you haven't said what happened after you met. Right. Amikiri showed a stunned expression, and immediately said with anger, that lunatic, as soon as he heard that I was going to find Tia, he started attacking me. If it wasn't for my rough skin and thick flesh, I might have died to see you. More. Amikiri begged for comfort to Sistana. Oh, attack indiscriminately, isn't that a creature from the evil camp? Sistana showed some doubts in her eyes, because she knew Amikiri's character very well. Playful and active, and always a little clever. However, Sistana's face was calm, and she followed Amikiri's words. Yes, I also suspect that she is of the evil camp, otherwise how could she attack me? I am a dragon, who doesn't know that I am a neutral camp? Seeing Sistana following her words, Amikiri immediately agreed. But when she spoke, a sly look flashed in her eyes. Just caught by Sistana. Sistana smiled and said, if that's the case, it must be from the evil camp. Then, in the eyes of Amikiri with a look of approval, Sistana suddenly changed the conversation. However, if the reason for the conflict is not what you said, Chi Li, you can't wrong others like this. Amikiri stopped eating and looked at Sistana with a guilty conscience. Tell me, did you make a mistake again? Someone who took the initiative to provoke. Sistana patted Amikiri's forehead and asked. Quote. Amikiri threw away the fruit and covered her forehead with an unnatural look on her face. Seeing Amikiri hesitating, Sistana thought for a while and said, let me guess, that person must be very strong, otherwise you won't be hurt. Does it have to be level 70? Amikiri did not speak, but nodded in response. You were only level 65 before, but now you are level 70. With your temperament, you definitely want to find someone to learn from, so you are going to challenge others. Amikiri nodded again. She did not have level 70 before, and the news spread from the outside world was actually made up by her sister. Knowing that she likes to run around, but worried about her safety, she made up a false level of strength. This can save her a lot of trouble. After all, there are still many people who want to slay dragons. As long as it is not a real powerhouse to investigate, it will generally not be revealed. But Sistana knew this. I even knew that Amikiri was not level 65 when she came out, only level 60. Because Sistana is not only acquainted with Amikiri, but also with her sister Tia. This was before she became the queen of the mermaid race. So in the end you still lost. Sistana looked at Amikiri with a smile on her face. Amikiri blushed instantly and defended. No, am I the kind of dragon who suffers? She's not feeling well either, and the injuries are heavier than mine. You. Sistana shook her head helplessly. Then what is the real conflict between the two of you? It's not just your challenge, right? No, I also find it very strange that when I first went up to the challenge, she ignored me. Amikiri recalled. I pestered her later, and she still ignored me. I'm not the kind of dragon who likes to force others. Just when I was about to give up, I suddenly heard Tia's sister's name from her mouth. Then I said that Tia was my person, had a close relationship, and slept together, and when she heard this, she attacked me suddenly and we started fighting. Sistana was surprised. That's it. Well, just like that, I don't know why she suddenly shot. Amikiri sat up, getting angrier the more she thought about it. With a look of dissatisfaction, he said, I'm telling the truth. I, sister, Nana, you, and Tia, haven't we all slept in a big bed together? 5. Sistana was also very puzzled. But she thought of one thing, and that was Tia's previous preferences. Keely, do you still remember one thing I mentioned to you before? About Sister Tia. Ah, what's the matter? My head doesn't remember anything. It's not like you don't know, Sister Nana. It's about Tia liking your sister, do you remember? Oh, I remember. Amikiri suddenly realized and said, if I remember correctly, Sister Nana, you said that Sister Tia has a sister fetish. Point 0. Well, this is also the reason why Sister Tia left us and walked away slowly. Sistana nodded and said, let me ask you, is the one who fought with you a cold big sister? 5. Yes, Sister Nana, how did you even know this? Hehe, you forgot, Sister Tia doesn't have that kind of hobby for me and you. Although we are both older sisters, she only likes Sister Tia. Is that so? It's a pity, why doesn't Sister Tia like me? Maybe I can try it out with her. Don't make trouble, Sister Tia knows that she will definitely lock you up. Sistana warned with a face. Amikiri spit out a cute little fragrant tongue and responded, I know, I'm not joking. So, Sister Nana, do you suspect that Sister Tia has found a new sister? The one who fought me? Well, it's probably not wrong. Next time you see Tia, you can ask in person. Okay, then I'll go now. Amikiri also did what she said, and was about to leave immediately. But it was stopped by Sistana. Can't you find a fight now? Did you forget you just got into a fight with someone else? Oh, roar too. Amikiri scratched her head, looked at Sistana and asked, what should I do then? Wait for me, when we have a chance, let's go see her together, although it's not far away, but I haven't seen Tia for a long time. Okay, when the time comes, our 3 sisters will unite again and go to the 36 islands to play. Sister Nana, you don't know, that place is fun. Amikiri thought of happy things, and immediately became eloquent. That place is full of pirates, before I. Sistana listened quietly, like a gentle big sister. But all his mind was thinking about Tia, and there was a lot of worry in his eyes. She is a mermaid, and the mermaid is all female, and the reproduction of offspring can be completed independently. So she never thought of falling in love. But I also know that Tia's kind of thinking will not have a very good result. After choosing the skills, Su Ming found a bow and arrow as a weapon. Then opened the copy, intending to simply try the effect of the skill. Open copy. Ding. You found a level 10 boost Nether Shadow Leopard, handle it with care. It's good luck, fighting this booze, you can just know how effective the shadow escape is. The Nether Shadow Leopard attacked Su Ming as soon as it saw Su Ming. The 2 strong and powerful front paws are pouncing forward. At the same time, the leopard opened its mouth wide, revealing its ferocious fangs. Seeing this, Su Ming immediately turned on the shadow escape, his body turned into a shadow, and moved rapidly in the opposite direction of the ghostly shadow leopard. The ghostly shadow leopard fluttered into the air, seeing Su Ming's figure disappear directly, and was a little stunned for a while. Without a target, Netherworld began to wander after a while. At that moment, Su Ming's speed soared directly, exceeding 1000, and he couldn't control it for a while, and ran a little far. When he wanted to come back, 10 seconds had passed. However, Su Ming is not in a hurry. Since he is far away, he will just wait for the skill to cool down. Anyway, there is no time limit for brushing a copy. 10 minutes passed quickly. Su Ming went to the Nether Shadow Leopard again, and after several trials, he found the upper limit of the shadow escape. The short-term invincibility is the first 3 seconds after the skill is activated, and after that, even if it is in a shadow state, it will also take damage. This skill is fine. After going out, I will arrange one for Shuchu as well. The victory or defeat of a warrior's fight often lies in the moment of the confrontation. If this skill is used properly, it will have miraculous effects. At the same time, with Shuchu's blood-locking passive, chasing and escaping can be greatly improved. Thinking about it this way, I'm here to test Shuchu's skills. Su Ming frowned, feeling speechless. Seeing that the Nether Shadow Leopard was about to attack again, Su Ming pulled away and started flying kites. He wanted to try to kill the Nether Shadow Leopard without the curse of blood exchange. The result was a clear failure. Su Ming has no professional bonuses for archers. He has a bow and arrow in his hand. Although he has the title bonus he obtained before, the damage is still not enough. If it really takes so long, it is estimated that it will take 4 or 5 hours. But Su Ming's endurance is far behind. So, when I finally got tired of playing, I directly took the Nether Shadow Leopard away with a blood exchange curse. Exit the copy. Su Ming stretched, and after moving his muscles and bones, he went to the study. The day passed quickly. It was Bai Ling who slept with him at night, but this time it was equivalent to having an extra pillow, because both of them were in a state of sage. The next morning, Su Ming got up early and came to the lobby. Huang-san has been waiting here. Since it is necessary to summon a talent to help share the affairs, it must be handed over with Huang-san. Whether to summon. Su Ming first activated the blessing skill. On the plane of the ancient dynasty of the Dragon Kingdom, pray for the top civil servants. Call. The final confirmation, and then the screen began to rotate, and one by one plane world flashed. But in the end, the picture did not stop on any dynasty plane. Instead, they all popped out. Ding. Summoning talent activated. Ding. Due to different dynasties, the civil officials of each dynasty cannot make a detailed comparison, please choose by yourself. Top civil servant of the Xia dynasty, Yi Yin. Top literati of the Shang dynasty, Bai Gan. Top civil servant of the Zhou dynasty, Zhang Zia. Top civil servant of the Qin dynasty, Li Si. Top civil servant of the Han dynasty, Zhang Liang. Top civil servant of Jin dynasty, Xian. Top civil servant of the Sui dynasty, Yang Su. Top civil servants of the Tang dynasty, Cheng Sun Wuji. Top civil servant in Song dynasty, Fan Zhongyan. Top civil servants in the Yuan dynasty, Yelu Chukai. Top civil servant of the Ming dynasty, Lu Ji. Top civil servants of the Qing dynasty, Fan Wencheng. Looking at this list, Su Ming fell into contemplation. No Zhu Liang, no Xuan Yu, no Zhang Zhao. He likes to play strategy games, and he is naturally familiar with the characters of the Three Kingdoms period. But unfortunately, the number of summons during the Three Kingdoms period has already been occupied by Xu Chu. And that period cannot be called a dynasty. So now he has to choose among other dynasty planes. After thinking about it, Su Ming chose a civil servant he was most familiar with. Lu Ji. Ding. Congratulations on getting the founding minister of Ming dynasty, Lu Ji Lu Bowen. A burst of light flashed, and a hearty old man appeared. Su Ming threw it away to check. Name, Lu Bowen. Age, 60 years old. Identity, Wenchen. Level, 17, Lord's Seal. Qualification, SSS, Seal of the Lord. Occupation, Wenchen, carried by plane. Loyalty, 100, full. Skills, Shenji, Wang Zuo, Tians, Shenren passive, Emperor Shi passive. Introduction. Lu Bowen, The Unification of the Country, History of the Ming Dynasty, said that Lu Bowen was experienced in the history of the classics, peeking into all the books, especially the study of Jingxiangwei. For the Wang Zuo and Emperor teacher, he has the reputation of knowing 500 years before and 500 years later. Hint. Summoned by Su Ming, the lord of the farming tribe, from the plane of the Ming dynasty, the memory of the past life was removed, and the instinct and character were preserved. Note. Special talents are not suitable for combat. Lu Bowen appeared on the stage with a calm expression, as if he was not surprised that he appeared here. Looking at Su Ming, he bowed his head and bowed. Chen, Lu Bowen, see the Lord. Please, sir. Su Ming immediately stepped forward to help. It's my luck to have the help of Mr. Thank you, my lord. Lu Bowen got up. Huang-san on the side also greeted him and said, Huang-san has seen Mr. Honorable Steward Huang. Lu Bowen returned the salute. The two knew each other's abilities as soon as they met, and neither dared to underestimate each other. Old Huang, take Mr. Lu down to hand over the work. All are full of loyalty, and there is no need to communicate more emotions. So Su Ming spoke directly. Yes. The two stepped back. Su Ming checked the air luck value, and actually cleared it directly. Hiss. Su Ming took a deep breath and shook his head. It seems that the next 2 times can only be summoned by luck. Open the skill again and directly perform 2 summons. Whether to summon. Call. Screen stops in one world. Blinking light game plane. Su Ming saw this name and got used to it. Another unknown world. Ding. Summoning talent activated. Ding. Congratulations on getting Luoshui Goddess, Luoshan. Name. Mi Fei Luo Shen. Age. 120 years old. Identity. Loho Water God. Level. Level 70. Qualification. SSS, Seal of the Lord. Occupation. Mage carried by plane. Loyalty. 100 full. Skills. Qingyan covering the moon, flowing wind returning snow, beauty Qing, god of Luoshui passive. Introduction. Legend has it that she was the daughter of Fuxi, named concubine Mi, who died in Loha and became the water god of Loha. Hint. Summoned from the glittering light game plane by Su Ming, the lord of the farming tribe, removes the memory of the past life, and retains the instinct and character. Su Ming's eyes flashed a blue light. But when no one was seen, Su Ming heard another beep. Start summoning. The picture stops in one world. Genshin Impact game plane. Ding. Summoning talent activated. Ding. Congratulations on getting General Thunder, Shadow. Chapter 91. Name. Raiden Shadow, Balzeb. Age. 130 years old. Identity. Thor carried by plane. Level. Level 20, 60. Qualification. SSS, Seal of the Lord. Occupation. Lord God carried by plane. Loyalty. 100 full. Skills. Origin. Evil eyes. Dreams. Thousands of wishes passive. Victories body passive. Famous object hunting passive. Introduction. General Thunder and Lightning, the most terrifying incarnation of thunder, the supreme ruler of the Anawi Shogunate, the thunderous thunder of authority, the annihilation who pursues the lonely road of eternity. Hint. Summoned from the game plane of Yuenshin by Su Ming, the lord of the farming tribe, removes the memory of the past life, and retains the instinct and character. Just when Su Ming was in a trance, two stunning women walked out from one blue and one purple, two spatial portals. The woman who walked out of the blue portal had a beautiful face, almond eyes and raised eyebrows, a slender figure, flying long hair, and was wearing a water-colored skirt. Jade feet did not hide, and Ji Yu Pan revealed a sense of agility. Beautiful eyes flow, inadvertently can touch the heart. Su Ming looked a little crazy for a while. And the woman who walked out of the purple portal couldn't help frowning when she saw the scenes. Looking down at his tall and proud figure, he couldn't think of a reason why he couldn't attract Su Ming. Touching his face again, he seemed to have found the reason. Her appearance is inherently attractive, that is, the more she looks, the more beautiful and stunning she becomes. Peugeot facial features, a tear mole at the corner of the eye, full of cool and graceful. But when compared with other beauties, people will feel mediocre at first glance. Seeing that Su Ming was still absent, concubine Mi glanced at Balzabu, then looked at Su Ming again, and suddenly covered her lips and chuckled. Su Ming suddenly came back to his senses. Embarrassed, Balzab was also discovered at this time. Balzab immediately saluted. Balzab, I have seen Lord. Concubine Mi on the side also waved her veil and saluted. Little girl concubine Mi, I have seen adults. Su Ming was about to say, don't be too polite, but just at this moment, Ku Wanru walked in from outside with Zaire and Bai Ling. Seeing the two more Juchen women in the lobby, I was stunned for a while. The appearance and temperament of the two women are better than Ku Wanru, and they have reached the level of Tu Shan Yaya and Tia. Yu Xuanji, a territorial merchant in the territory, is also slightly inferior. Su Ming also saw Ku Wanru and the three of them, and then looked at concubine Mi and Balzabu, and subconsciously, he had to explain. Unexpectedly, Ku Wanru directly misunderstood. Is this two more sisters? Ku Wanru was not only not angry, but came up to greet her enthusiastically. After a brief introduction to each other, several women actually became familiar with each other. Su Ming seemed a bit redundant by the side. Concubine Mi and Balzabu became more respectful after knowing that Ku Wanru was the wife. Hearing that she was called a sister, her face turned ruddy, and her eyes began to look strange when she looked at Su Ming. Apparently, some other ideas started to spring up in my mind. Su Ming discovered this, and the corner of his mouth twitched. He wanted to ask Ku Wanru very much, am I going to open a harem, or are you going to put a harem for me? The full value of loyalty can't be played casually, and it will deteriorate if you are not careful. Although, Su Ming looked at the looks of concubine Mi and Balzabu. Although it is not a loss. But would it not be nice to be so straightforward? It is undeniable that he does have some thoughts about the two in his heart. On the contrary, if the beauties he summoned were cheaper than others, it would be disgusting enough for Su Ming. Ku Wanru held concubine Mi's jade hand, and Bai Ling held Balzabu's jade hand. It's like a picture scroll of sisters' love, the beauties gather together, and the beauty is unbelievable. Since we are all a family, it's just time for breakfast, let's eat together. With that said, Ku Wanru pulled the two of them out. Before leaving, he gave Su Ming a resentful look. When she thought about it, these two must have been recruited by Su Ming to fill the harem. Su Ming suddenly cried out that he was wrong. This is what you thought, and you didn't ask me a word from beginning to end. Too bad he can't explain it now. However, after seeing that Ku Wanru was able to calmly accept her own harem, Su Ming felt relieved. His feelings for Ku Wanru were very strange. At first, he felt that Ku Wanru's attitude towards him was very special, so he paid some attention. Later, they gradually became familiar with each other, and they got along very well. The two seemed to be in harmony by nature. Then, when the Lord's seal was awakened at the same time, my heart couldn't help but throb, because it was too coincidental. The probability of awakening the seal of the Lord is low, but the two of them are in the same class and have awakened the seal of the Lord at the same time. It gave him a sense of destiny. When Han Shizhuang offended Ku Wanru, he felt uncomfortable in his heart, and since then he has confirmed his intentions. In the next 7 days of training, the relationship between the two quickly warmed up. Therefore, Ku Wanru is Su Ming's first love, and it is also the beginning of his lazy love for the opposite gender. Although the time of formal communication was short, it was very profound. This is also the reason why Su Ming agreed to Ku Wanru without hesitation and married her as the principal. But aside from other issues, Su Ming is also very satisfied with this call. Lu Bowen is a great talent. Even if he is alone, he is enough to handle affairs in the territory. Huang San could just be liberated to recruit the elves and maximize his skills. He was originally a diplomatic talent, and he dealt with internal affairs before, but only shared the burden for Su Ming with his own knowledge reserve. No bonuses, but no mistakes either. On the other hand, Lu Bowen's skills, Tiance and Emperor Shi, can give bonuses to the territory. Heavenly policy. The body of a mortal, acting on behalf of the sky, activates skills, ensures that the territory of the power is in good weather, all resource production plus 90%, the aging period is 1 month, and the cooling is 10 days. Emperor Teacher. The power of opening the sky, the teacher of the Emperor, passive skills, ignoring negative effects received by the territory minus 50%, teaching effect when teaching others plus 50%, damage minus 50%, efficiency of handling internal affairs plus 90%, Shoyuan plus 100. Several of his other skills also have more or less buffs. It can be said that Lu Bowen is all-powerful in addition to personally fighting the enemy. But unfortunately, many of the effects of his skills conflict with Su Ming. The only situation where it can be used is that after Su Ming leaves the territory, the effect of the Emperor's skills can be fully exerted. This can also be regarded as clearing some worries for Su Ming to leave the territory in the future. Before, it was because I didn't want to cause trouble, I just wanted to develop steadily, and I wanted to go to the 60th level. Then he left here with Ku Wanru, and returned to the real world with a whole body of strength. But now, this idea is clearly not available. A 50th level force like the Black Elves would not be without the attention of other forces. Now it is being integrated into the farming tribe, which will inevitably arouse the vigilance of other forces. Even if those forces have not yet emerged, Su Ming dare not be careless. There are pirates attacking when the reputation is not obvious, so after the reputation is out, is it still worth it? Therefore, in the future, the development of forces must not be gradual. The Lord Su Ming can no longer hope for peace, at least not until he develops enough power. Just when Su Ming was thinking about how to arrange concubine Mi and Balzabu, Ku Wanru suddenly turned back. What are you thinking about? No breakfast. Ku Wanru came to the entrance of the lobby and called to Su Ming. Oh, come right away. Su Ming's train of thought was interrupted, and he no longer thought about it. I plan to see what suggestions Lu Bowen can give to the territory first, and then arrange the two according to the situation. On the way, Ku Wanru suddenly said to Su Ming, "You have 2 more sisters now, I have no problem with that, but if you really want to admit 2 people into the room, you must be behind me, otherwise I will not agree." When she said this, Ku Wanru had a serious face. She was the first person to establish a relationship with Su Ming, but now, she can only become Su Ming's 3rd woman. It made her a little uncomfortable. Okay, it's all up to you. Su Ming smiled and hugged Ku Wanru's fragrant shoulders and agreed. For a person who likes himself, it is not too much to make such a request. Ku Wanru's face turned happy. King Pig Island. Hai Laoguo, what's the situation? What did the leader of Queen Bee Island say? The second leader who floated back in the boat last night, the wolf-headed man, was lying on the bed and asked the one-eyed sea old pot with a pale face. Hai Laoguo's face was also not good looking. Obviously he didn't bring back good news. Second chief, I followed your instructions to go to the Queen Bee for help, and I did not expose the big chief and their affairs. Originally, the Queen Bee has also agreed, but the next bee will suddenly step in and ask for an increase in compensation. They disagree with the conditions we gave. Alas, the wolf head sighed after hearing this. In the past, King Bee Island was most closely related to King Pig Island. But this time, King Pig Island went to ask for help, but was rejected by King Bee Island. Without the Queen Bee's signal, a bee will dare to interfere in the transaction between the two islands. Of course the wolf-headed man knew why. After all, this time, the only one who went to ask for help was Hai Laoguo, a member with little status. This aroused suspicion on Queen Bee Island. None of the 9 chiefs of Pig King Island went to ask for help, which was all an enticing news. That's what happened to Pig King Island, and it's still a big deal. This also made some people with heart move the mind of annexing Pig King Island. Where's Rotten Snake? Has he heard anything from him? The wolf head asked again. No, Rotten Snake ran off 2 islands last night, and neither got a clear response. Hai Laoguo shook his head and said with a worried look, furthermore, because we asked for help from yesterday to today, it has attracted the attention of some other island leaders. Now they have decent spies to investigate around, maybe they have plans to attack our Pig King Island. Saying that, Hai Laoguo's face also showed anger. Looking at Hai Laoguo's appearance, the wolf-headed man waved his hand and said, hee, everyone is pushing the wall down, there is nothing to be angry about. They are also restrained by all parties, and no force will allow another island to annex our Pig King Island alone. There must be entanglements of interests, and we won't do it for the time being, so you don't have to worry too much. The most urgent task now is to avenge the Big Brother and the others. Big Brother and the others were careless and fell into the hands of a small human power. This is a great shame for them and for Pig King Island. When he thought of what happened on Shuiyu Island, the wolf-headed man tickled his teeth with hatred. He had the reputation of being a foresight. Seeing that the situation was not good at the time, he jumped into the sea without choosing to get on the boat. So far escaped. Later, a small boat was robbed, and it took a day and a night to float back. But we only have a dozen brothers now, how can we avenge the big leader? Hai Laoguo couldn't help asking. The wolf-headed man was silent for a while, lost in thought. Now the power of Pig King Island has died in name only, and the entire island is empty. The former power base camp has now become the biggest bargaining chip in the hands of the wolf-headed people. But how to make the most of this chip requires careful consideration. Thinking about it, the figure of a woman suddenly appeared in the wolf-headed man's mind, and he recalled the creatures flying in the sky that he saw at the seaside. Immediately there was enlightenment in my heart. Hai Laoguo, you go to Ghost King Island first, and tell Ghost King that there is a great beauty on Shuiyu Island, the kind he has never played before. With the virtue of that lecture, he will definitely send someone to investigate. After he confirms it, we will invite him to take action in return for the sight of Pig King Island. Hearing the wolf-headed man's words, Hai Laoguo was shocked. What kind of strength is Ghost King Island? That is the first island in the 36 islands. Is it really possible to take that power into account? Second leader, is there really such a beautiful woman on Shuiyu Island? The Ghost King hates others to lie to him the most, if. Hai Laoguo said half of his words and kept his mouth shut. What, do you think there is anything we can't give up? Or do you not want to go back? The wolf-headed man looked at Hai Laoguo, and a fierce light suddenly appeared in his eyes. Hai Laoguo's meaning is already very obvious. Worry about getting into trouble. If Pig King Island is annexed by other forces, he can also switch to other forces. But if he angered the Ghost King, he would definitely die. As a pirate, he doesn't have so much loyalty. This posturing now is just for other forces to see, in order to leave a good impression and cast a good way out in the future. The wolf-headed man also knew this, and he didn't dismantle it just because he still needed Hai Laoguo to work. But now, since Hai Laoguo dared to question, he couldn't blame the wolf-headed man for using his strength. And he was very sure of his plan. No, I'll go. Cold sweat broke out on Hai Laoguo's face, and he hurriedly responded. When he was about to leave, the wolf-headed man suddenly stopped him. When you go out, just call a brother who is proficient in water for me, I have something to arrange. Yes, Hai Laoguo didn't want to stop for a moment. Now that the wolf-headed man has lost his righteous brother and is injured, it is the time when he is worried that his subordinates will turn against him. If one is unhappy and directly kills his Hai Laoguo, then he will be busy working in vain. Don't let the wolf head wait. After a while, a half-orc with a fish head and a human body walked in. Second leader, I heard that you were looking for me. The fish-headed man looked at the wolf-headed man without much respect in his words. He is different from Hai Laoguo and Rotten Snake, he is very strong and has level 25. The current wolf head is really not his opponent. After realizing the accident on Pig King Island, he also had other thoughts. However, on the surface, he still did not have many abnormalities, and he did not show too much disrespect to the wolf-headed man. When the wolf-headed man saw the fish-headed man coming in, his pupils obviously shrank, but they soon returned to normal. Master Yutu, please take a seat. Please take a seat. The fish-headed man is named Yutu, a creature of the Sea Clan. Yutu was taken aback by the wolf-headed man's shout, but he was immediately relieved. You are also welcome to shirk and sit down directly. Quite heartily. Then I would like to thank the second leader, I don't know why the second leader is looking for me this time. The wolf-headed man's eyes flashed fiercely, but he was well hidden by him. Poured a glass of water for Yutu, and said this time, I heard that Lord Yutu is a member of the aquarium. Yutu picked up the water and drank it. Yes, I committed a little thing 5 years ago, and now I have been removed. Looking at the drinking glass, the wolf-headed man breathed a sigh of relief. Knowing that this is just an idiot with power and strength, he has no heart to guard against it. If the wolf-headed man had the intention to harm him, he would be a corpse now. But this is also good, just suitable as a wolf-headed tool. Then how much does Master Yutu know about the merman? The wolf-headed man didn't care about the trivial things that Yutu said. On these 36 islands, how many lives did that pirate have on his hands? A trivial matter. Apart from killing life and robbing goods, other things are not even considered. Hearing the name of the shark people, a trace of yearning appeared in Yutu's eyes. But he said, the merman, of course I know this, I was also the front guard of the merman. He hadn't mentioned the past to any pirates, so at this time, it was all his nonsense. Acting in front of the wolf-headed man makes it more reasonable for him to be an adult. It is a pity that the wolf-headed man has a panoramic view of the change in his expression. He was good at communicating and observing words, otherwise he would not have negotiated with Huang San before. Disdain flashed in his eyes, but his face was the same as usual, and he echoed, that's really ignorant, I didn't expect Lord Yutu to be so brilliant. That's right, I'm very low-key, and I'll never tell outsiders about these things, that is, the second leader, you mention it, otherwise I'll be rotten for the rest of my life. Yutu responded brazenly. The wolf-headed man suddenly felt nauseated, but he held back and said, I wonder if Master Yutu has any plans to return to the mermaid clan. What? Yutu was stunned for a moment, thinking for a moment that he heard it wrong. What did the second leader mean by saying this? Did he sense that I was going to rebel? Should I kill him now? Yutu suddenly had many thoughts in his heart. He is indeed a big nerve, but that doesn't mean he can't think. Otherwise, as a pirate, he would not have survived until now. The wolf-headed man saw that the fish map was wrong, and immediately explained, Pig King Island is now withered and has reached the brink of destruction. I see that Master Yutu, your strength is not bad, and it happened that I also had news, so I thought of giving you a good fortune so that I might also get some light. If you don't want it, then I have nothing to say. The wolf-headed man was sincere, and at the same time indicated that he was not asking for nothing. This made Yudixon a three-pointer. Ha ha ha, the second leader is really polite, if you have something to say, if I can really help you, I will definitely have nothing to say about you two. Yutu was moved by the good fortune in the wolf head's mouth. Could it be related to entering the merman? That is a big opportunity. Seeing the fish taking the bait, a smile appeared on the corner of the wolf-headed man's mouth. Said, Master Yutu, have you ever heard of the conflict between the merpeople and the black elves? It was only then that the wolf-headed man revealed his findings. That's right, at the seaside, what he found was Sophie and the others who flew into the air. He is not an ignorant person, of course, he knows that Sophie and the others belong to the black elves. As for their relationship with Shueyu Island, he didn't know. But this time, there is no need to know. As long as it is determined that Shueyu Island is related to the black elves, it is enough. With the hatred between the mermen and the black elves, as long as they have contacts with the black elves, they are their enemies. It should not be too simple to let a big force like the merman race to destroy Shueyu Island. Moreover, the wolf-headed man is also prepared with both hands, so the chances of Ghost King Island being willing to take action are still very high. Of course I know this. I was on the battlefield and killed a few black elves. The proud look on the fish head's face is quite proud. The wolf-headed man didn't pay much attention to it, and asked again, then what if there are other forces that are closely associated with the black elves? Is it the enemy of the mermaid? That's for sure. Back then, when the merman king left the waters near Shueyu Island, he had already put down his words. As long as he interacted with the black elves, he was the enemy of the merman. Yutu's face was furious, as if he had a life and death feud with the black elves. He also showed off to the wolf-headed people. Because of the words of the king of mermen at the beginning, no other forces dared to contact them, except for the mortal enemy of the mermaid who had a bit of contact with the black elves. Really, that's awesome. The wolf-headed man agrees. Of course he knew about this, but he had no choice but to deal with this idiot. Let him go to the sea by himself, then he absolutely can't do it. Seeing that the timing was about the same, he said mysteriously, then let me tell you now, that Shueyu Island has an affair with the black elves, and is probably planning something in secret. You said that if you told the Merman King the news, the Merman King would still not remember your great achievement. Wouldn't it be easy to return to the Merman clan then? The wolf-headed man said this very seductively. Yutu's eyes lit up and he really believed it. Without thinking too much, I responded directly, and promised to take care of the wolf-headed man when the time came. Then he hurried out the door and went into the sea. The wolf-headed man looked at the back of Yutu's departure, and the mocking expression on his face was no longer concealed. Of money, a fool. Do you really think that you can let the merpeople take action just with your empty mouth and white teeth? That's right, the wolf-headed man's calculation is so simple. He asked Yutu to report this matter to the mermen, just to get in touch with the mermen. Let the merpeople know that they have to deal with the forces on Shueyu Island. The merpeople might not be interested in the power on Shueyu Island, but they would definitely be very happy to destroy the black elves by raking grass and beating rabbits. With the support of the firepower on the land of the pirates, the chances of winning the mermen will be much higher. If all the pirate forces of the 36 islands were united, the result of the war would be no exception. But this is obviously unrealistic. It would be nice to be able to move a Ghost King Island. So what the wolf-headed man has to do now is to wait for the merpeople to send someone to contact him. At that time, it would not be too difficult to destroy the Black Elves and Shueyu Island by uniting the two forces of Ghost King Island and the mermaid race. The wolf-headed man thought with a confident smile on his face. But after a while, it suddenly converged. Thinking of the fierce god who slaughtered pirates on Shueyu Island, I couldn't help but shake my heart. No, I always feel unsafe, and maybe I have to see if I can unite with other forces. The wolf-headed man walked back and forth in the house, and finally suddenly thought of the Goshawk clan living in the southwest of 36 islands. But as soon as I had this thought, I was decisively abandoned. Because he didn't have a way to contact the Goshawk clan. It seems that we still have to wait for the situation of the merpeople, and mention it to them at that time. Maybe there is a way to get in touch. The wolf-headed man can only suppress this idea first. However, he did not know that the merpeople had already known the information provided to him. However, the Merman King is indeed waiting for the reaction of other forces, and the wolf-headed man's behavior to seek cooperation is in the mind of the Merman King. Not only the wolf-headed people have plans, but other forces also have plans. Halfway up the mountainside of Broken Cloud Mountain, Jiang Susu was sitting on the edge of the cliff to rest. Behind her, two little dragons were fighting. One is an earth dragon and the other is a fire dragon. In the past 2 weeks, Jiang Susu has summoned 13 orc creatures. 3 of them are dragons. However, unlike the adult dragon clan summoned by the first one, the other 2 are just little guys. In order to take care of the growth of the 2 little guys, Jiang Susu takes a little time every day to play with them. It's also a way to relax. But these days, 2 things have always worried her. One is the number 1 in the power list. They have not yet found out who that person is and which country he belongs to. The other is the newly rushed Xizhuang Empire. She has asked many people about this force, and they all said that in the week before they came to the mainland, they had never seen this force. What does this mean? This shows that it took less than a week for this faction to break into the top 5 of the power list. In less than a week, the top 5. Tens of thousands of power. This is absolutely unprecedented in the history of the human race, and if it is pulled out alone, it is enough to serve as a milestone for mankind. And just now, this force has reached the 3rd. At this time, he is eager to try and will challenge Jiang Susu for the 2nd position. If this force belongs to the Dragon Kingdom, then Jiang Susu will not have any strange emotions, and even welcomes him to challenge. But unfortunately, they have contacted the Xizhuang Empire many times, but they have not received a response. Not even a communication method was added. It stands to reason that the name of the power in her territory is obvious enough, but the other party refuses to contact. This made Jiang Susu begin to suspect that something was wrong. At this moment, 2 communication requests sounded. Jiang Susu saw that it was Ji Yuxingning and Jin Yuya, and answered them at the same time. As soon as the communication was connected, a playful voice sounded. Good morning. The figure of Jin Yuya's little loli came through the video. Blonde hair, amber pupils, delicate as a Barbie doll. Some have baby fat statures, and their skin is fair and rosy, like an eggshell, which can be broken by blowing a bullet. At this time, she was sitting on the roof, dangling her green calf, and the video message was a little distance away from her, and her whole body could be photographed. Good morning, Yi Yi, and stay safe on the roof. After Jiang Susu said hello, she did not forget to remind Jin Yuya. But she completely forgot that she herself was on the edge of the cliff now. Hee, good eldest sister, I know. Jin Yuya replied, then looked at another screen, Ji Yuxingning. Good morning big cow. Puff. Ji Yuxingning, who was drinking water on the table in the room, choked immediately and spat out a mouthful of water. Cough cough. Wow, and also performing talent, the big cow is so enthusiastic, so alive and rewarding. Jin Yuya smiled proudly. Seems to be used to this kind of prank. Ji Yuxingning was in a hurry, adjusted his breathing, and directly said to each other, you malnourished little loli, flat-chested monster. You are just jealous. Ah. Being said to have a flat chest, Jin Yuya's complexion suddenly changed, and he immediately became angry. She's the typical gourmet and playful. Showing cute little tiger teeth, he shouted angrily at Ji Yuxingning, you big cow. Milk cow. It looks like a kitten whose tail has been stepped on. Seeing this, Ji Yuxingning, who was opposite, showed a smug smile. He turned a deaf ear to Jin Yuya's scolding, and even raised the plump Yufeng with both hands, looking at Jin Yuya provocatively. Ow, Jin Yuya's teeth are itchy. Wait for me, big cow, when my territory reaches level 30, I'll be the first to go to your territory to settle accounts with you. Okay, flat-chested leaflet Chaj, but maybe I'll go to level 30 first and then find you. Threatened by Jin Yuya, Ji Yuxingning did not show weakness. Jiang Susu was helpless when she saw that the 2 would pinch each other as soon as they met. Okay, this communication is not about you quarreling, let's talk about the information you have collected first. What is the origin of those 2 forces? How should we deal with them? Jiang Susu directly interrupted the bickering situation between the 2. Let me say it first, I still know a lot about the first power. Ji Yuxingning opened his mouth and said, the first power in the list, the initial power value is not very outrageous. As long as it is the seal of a lord of S rank or above, it can still be done with some opportunities. Although the power value is growing fast, it is still acceptable. I have noticed that this person's power has grown significantly in the 3 or 4 days after landing. It should be that I purchased the resources in the store and upgraded the territory. After all, we have also done this. After that, every few days, there will be a large increase. It should be hoarding resources and then upgrading at one time. However, a few days ago, the List 1 faction seemed to have obtained a large amount of resources, and the increase in influence value directly exceeded 10,000. I think it's because the main city of the territory has been upgraded a few levels, and that's why I don't know. Perhaps, this first-ranking force has completely surpassed our conventional development route and has begun to enter a state of war and plunder. Either there is an adventure, or there is no reason to get so many resources. My suggestion is to focus on it. Maybe he is the biggest stumbling block facing our Dragon Kingdom this time. Zhang Susu fell into deep thought after listening to Ji Yu Xingning's analysis. Ji Yu Xingning's previous remarks are all highlighting the power and importance of the List 1 force. And the last sentence is her ultimate goal. Because she didn't take this list as the Dragon Kingdom power. With such an outrageous increase in power value, the seal of the Lord must be S rank or above. But this time Long Guo awakened only 3 of the S-rank Lord's seals, that is, the 3 who are now in contact. The Donglin continent is not only the Dragon Country, but also the Stick Country and the Cherry Blossom Country. Even the younger brother from the Dragon Kingdom, Shaoshan Kingdom, is not impossible. Zhang Susu did not immediately make a conclusion, but looked at Jin Yuya. What do you think, Yi Yi? I don't think it's important to think about the number 1 ranking, and it doesn't matter which country he is from. Jin Yuya disagreed with Ji Yu Xingning as soon as she opened her mouth, but she did not come with her mouth open, she had her own basis. That List 1 hides the name of the power, but it can't be hidden forever, and it will naturally be exposed after reaching the 20th level. He's so perverted, it's only a matter of 2 days before he gets to level 20. When that time comes, we'll get in touch, and it won't be too late to come to a conclusion. Furthermore, even though we are the only 3 of us who are S rank and above in our country, it is not ruled out that some people are hidden. For example, what if the number 1 on this list was an SSS level talent? Jin Yuya expressed his guess with a serious look on his face. Zhang Susu and Ji Yu Xingning frowned. Because Jin Yuya's guess is really possible. Think of the List 1 as the awakener of the seal of the SSS level Lord of the Dragon Kingdom. If they stood at the top of the country, they might have made the same choice. The news of the SSS level Lord's seal is strictly sealed. This is exactly how it is now. Everything happened naturally and rationally. But Zhang Susu and Ji Yu Xingning never thought about this situation. Of course they thought about it, but in the end they were all denied by themselves. Because, the seal of the SSS level Lord is too rare. In the past 50 years, only 1 person has awakened the seal of the SSS level Lord. It is a pity that this person is very unfortunate. Before he developed, he was jointly attacked by several other major forces in this world and eventually died prematurely. After that, the SSS level Lord's seal never appeared again. Some people even speculate that there will be no more SSS level Lord's seal in the future. But now that this situation was brought up by Jin Yuya, Zhang Susu and Ji Yu Xingning couldn't refute it for a while. Zhang Susu looked at Ji Yu Xingning and knew that she had no clue. So he said, let's talk about this after the name of the first power in the list is exposed. Now, we should think about who the third Xizhuang Empire is. Yi Yi, what you wanted to express just now was to deal with the top 3 first, right? Well, I think this list is too suspicious. Jin Yuya nodded. Zhang Susu looked at Ji Yu Xingning again, and Ji Yu Xingning nodded in agreement with Jin Yuya's statement. She previously said that the power growth of List 1 was reasonable. In fact, it was just to compare the Xizhuang Empire mentioned now. Because the rise of the Xizhuang Empire was too fast, it seemed that there was no need to collect resources at all, and the power value rose wildly. I also find it suspicious. Zhang Susu said. There are only 2 kinds of situations that can happen. One is that that force has become a big force, and the big force will help its development unconditionally. The other is that the seal of the Lord has been traded, and the local forces are borrowing the seal of the Lord to develop their power. Of course, this is the worst-case scenario. Before the 3 of them entered the virtual world, they had seen the highest authority information, and naturally knew about the Lord's seal transaction. also understand the dangers, but they never imagined that such a thing would actually happen to them. This kind of thing should be dealt with immediately by the person above. Why would this person appear at the top of the rankings? Ji Yu Xingning asked in confusion. Jin Yuya shrugged, expressing that he did not know. Zhang Susu shook her head helplessly. Maybe there are other reasons, even if it is perfunctory by this person. But there is no action above, it does not mean that we have to wait and see. Tomorrow is the last day of the second week. Try again in these 2 days to see if you can contact the 3 forces on the list. If not, then contact other Lord members of the Dragon Kingdom and impose sanctions on him, and he must not grow up. If it is a misunderstanding in the end, the responsibility will be fully borne by me. Well, okay, I'll listen to you from the eldest sister. Jin Yuya responded with a smile. Ji Yu Xingning also nodded, but she objected to Zhang Susu's last sentence. Since it was the 3 of us who negotiated, then of course the responsibility is to be borne together. However, are we sure we shouldn't target this list? Ji Yu Xingning still insisted on killing the list, saying that it is impossible to have no selfishness. Jin Yuya suddenly joked. The big cow is so interested in the list. Or did this force provoke you? Ji Yu Xingning was at a loss for words. Jin Yuya was also hitting right. Ji Yu Xingning still remembered being downgraded by Su Ming before. Zhang Susu said, this time it's just to discuss countermeasures. If it is found later that the list can't be contacted, then he will be classified as another country in the Donglin continent. The target is still headed by him, and we will talk about it later. If it is from other countries, it is naturally targeted, but if it is from the Dragon Kingdom, then it is not unacceptable for Zhang Susu to lead the new power competition this year. All right, seeing that Zhang Susu had already arranged this way, Ji Yu Xingning didn't say anything anymore. However, the concern for the List 1 forces became more and more profound. From her collection of the development of Su Ming's forces, you can get a glimpse of 1 or 2. After breakfast, Su Ming spent the morning sorting out the resources sent by the Black Elves. At the same time, the Lord's mansion was upgraded to level 19, and then it was not upgraded again, so it was stuck. Now that you know what will happen at level 20, you can't start the war mode too hastily. Of course, doing so is also a bit of a disadvantage. Because the territory does not have level 20, the level 20 dungeon cannot be opened. And the surrounding creatures are not high level, the experience gained from killing monsters is very limited. So now the soldiers in the territory have not reached level 20, and the highest level is only level 18. Instead, it was overtaken by Su Ming and others. Lu Bowen did not disappoint Su Ming either. After observing the territory in the morning, he proposed several strategies for 3 aspects. One is military construction, the other is hierarchy, and the other is economic development. Now the armed forces of the farming tribes are only more than 100 soldiers, plus a few hundred more, brute. Therefore, Lu Bowen proposed to recruit soldiers from the Black Elves, and make certain adjustments to the armed forces of the Black Elves. From the 4 parts of Gear Forest before, 2 have now been transferred to Shuiyu Island. Split and reorganized to establish Bow and Arrow Battalion, Magic Guide Regiment, Pioneer Regiment, Flying Army Battalion, and Navy Army. Among them, the Vanguard Group is dominated by the warriors of the farming tribe. The Flying Barracks is made up of eagles and soldiers. At the same time, Dark Guards and Personal Guards were also formed. Dark Guards are mostly assassins, responsible for assassination and detective intelligence. The Personal Guard was led by Shu Chu and was responsible for the security of the Lord's mansion. The number of Dark Guards was 120, and the number of Personal Guards plus Shu Chu was only 11. The Flying Army Camp Su Ming planned to arrange for Balzeb to lead the army, and the Navy Army was led by Mi Fei. Of course, in the process of integration, also encountered many troubles. But they were solved by Lu Bowen, Huang San and Sophie together. In just one morning, the army has taken shape. As for the territorial system, Lu Bowen, after negotiating with Huang San, made a joint proposal to adopt the aristocratic system. This system is the most basic ruling system in the virtual world, and it is the easiest for territorial members to be familiar with and accept. The ranks of the nobility were also established, they were Gonghu Bozinen and the 5th rank. The elders and generals of the Black Elves were all knighted. This is one of the reasons why the Black Elves can accept being recruited so quickly. The most important reason is of course that the Queen of the Black Elf spoke in person, she was already Su Ming's woman. Therefore, the Black Elves agreed that Tia would marry Su Ming, the Lord of Shuiyu Island in the future. Originally, Lu Bowen planned to add 3 provinces and 6 ministries to this system, but after negotiation, it was temporarily shelved. Because now the only management talents in the territory are Lu Bowen and Huang San. Huang San also made it clear that he only wants to be in charge of foreign affairs in the future. As for his stewardship, it has been replaced by Ku Wanru, and he does not need to worry about the affairs of the Lord's mansion. However, for the convenience of management, the title of the title is still required. Therefore, the internal and external affairs were established. Lu Bowen was the internal affairs director, and Huang San was the foreign affairs director. Then the general affairs department was established with them at the head. Lu Bowen's subordinates set up 4 departments to manage equipment construction, alchemy, construction resources, and living resources. Finally, there is the economic aspect. Fully open the shops and bring in the Black Elves to live there. The Goblin clan has also completely surrendered, and the Patriarch Nadalu is organizing people to pick up other reclusive clansmen. At the same time, plans have also begun to build trade ports around Shuiyu Island. To pave the way for future trade, but also to facilitate the navy. The extra population was quickly used, and the construction of the territory began to develop to towns, and it was no longer a simple collection of resources to upgrade. From a distance, Shuiyu Island is full of busy scenes. Su Ming himself was not idle either. It seems that he was infected by the vitality of the territorial members, and coupled with Lu Bowen's advice, he began to supplement the knowledge of this world at this time. With the guidance of Lu Bowen and Huang San, his learning and progress are also extremely fast. In the afternoon, while Su Ming was reading a book in the study, Fu Sophie suddenly came to ask to see him. When I came outside, I saw Yura standing beside Sophie, and my heart suddenly understood. Taking them to the lobby, he opened his mouth and asked, "Is it found out?" Now that Yura has appeared, the Black Elf who disguised as Yura will naturally understand. However, Sophie was a little hesitant at this time, and she hesitated. Su Ming skipped her directly, looked at Yura and asked, "Where have you been these days?" Since Sophie didn't say it, he asked himself. Yura had already known Su Ming's identity from Sophie's mouth, so she didn't dare to be disrespectful. He answered honestly, Lord, I have been living in a secluded place in the Gore Forest these days." A place of seclusion. Su Ming was unfamiliar with the name. Sophie on the side, as if she had made up her mind. He explained to Su Ming, "Sir, the place of seclusion is also the place where our clansmen retreat." Su Ming nodded and asked Yura again, "Since it's a retreat place, why did you appear there? Did you go there voluntarily, or was it captured?" "I went voluntarily." "Oh, that is, you voluntarily let others be disguised as you." Su Ming paused, then a fierce light suddenly appeared in his eyes. Yura was startled, and suddenly panicked and at a loss. Seeing this, Sophie hurriedly explained, "Sir, you have misunderstood, and Yura is unaware of this. In order to reduce trouble, I didn't mention it to her when I came." Seeing Su Ming turning to herself with an unhappy expression, Sophie no longer concealed it. "I suspect that the one you are looking for is the priest of our elves." Hearing Sophie mentioning the priest, Yura suddenly came back to her senses and interjected, "What happened to the priest? Isn't the priest with me these days?" "That's the clone used by the priest. She took you to a secluded place, and then she came to Shuiyu Island disguised as you." But why did the priest do this?" Sophie didn't answer, but looked at Su Ming. Now everything is clear. Fra planned the overall situation by himself, and did not unite with anyone at all. As for the purpose, looking at the current situation, Su Ming can roughly guess it. After all, Su Ming didn't suffer at all, but took advantage of it. But this feeling of being calculated by others always made him feel uncomfortable. And this matter must also be explained to Tia and Bai Ling. Su Ming asked with a gloomy face, "Where is he now?" "We don't know either." Sophie shook her head and said, "The priest has set up a maze around the secluded place, and by the time we find Yura, it's too late. The clone of the priest left in the clan has also disappeared, and has taken many of her own things. You've been with her all the time, do you know when she disappeared? Su Ming looked at Yura and asked. Well, I know. Yura nodded. To Su Ming's surprise, Yura even directly stated Fura's location. When the priest left, she told me that she said she was going back to the White Elves, and I asked her why she went, but she didn't answer. This made Su Ming and Sophie stunned. How dare Fra reveal where he is? Isn't she afraid to find the past to settle accounts by herself? Or, this is another calculation, the purpose is to let Su Ming find it. For a while, Su Ming felt that this Frau had a grudge against the elves. Just when Su Ming was in doubt, an elf suddenly came to report that they had found something strange in the sea. Let people in. Su Ming instructed Shu Chu and others at the door. A soldier and a black elf entered the lobby together. After bowing to Su Ming and Sophie, he said, Sir, just now we were looking at the sea mirror from the defense tower, and found that there were creatures with human heads but fish scales on the sea. The black elves also echoed. That creature is a merman, I have seen it before, and I will definitely not admit it wrong. Mermaid. Hearing the name, Su Ming seemed to think of something. Take out a book from the space backpack, this book is obtained from the black elves. After quickly opening it, I found the record about the merman. Sophie on the side was also slightly surprised. Didn't this merman clan not reappear after they exited the waters of Shuiyu Island 20 years ago? I have always been at war with the mermaid, how could I have time to come here? Because of the lack of information, Sophie didn't know that the mermaid and the merman had been at an armistice for several years. Their black elves were invincible on this land, and they were used to being free and undisturbed in the past. There is little information about other forces. What's more, the leader is a queen who doesn't manage, and a priest who retires and doesn't want to be in charge. It has been a great luck for them that no foreign forces have invaded in these years. How many are there? Su Ming frowned and his expression became solemn. Since it was a powerful force from outside, Su Ming naturally did not dare to relax. This time he didn't have the same chips as Tia. It could not be a coincidence that the merman suddenly appeared near Shuiyu Island. Because of this time node, it happened to be the 20th level of the Su Ming card territory. Master Wei, what we have seen, there are a total of 10 mermen. The black elf replied. He answered very rigorously, and dared not say that he found all the sharks. Because they are only on a defensive tower, there are always places they can't see. 10 sharks, this is already very telling. Perhaps this is not the first time the merpeople have come to investigate Shuiyu Island. Su Ming thought so, because when patrolling the sea area, there are usually a few scattered people. When it reaches 10 people, this is a team. Did you alarm them? No, the two answered in unison. Very well, you go down first, and report any new findings immediately. Yes, my lord. The two back off. You leave too, Sophie stays. Su Ming looked at Yura and said. Since Frau can't be found now, the matter can only be put on hold. You can't anger an uninformed Yura, can you? However, there is still a need to observe Yura. After all, Su Ming is also worried about Fura repeating his old tricks. After seeing everyone gone, Sophie said, My lord, this merman might be a bad visitor, so please be careful. Su Ming didn't look up at Sophie, just responded to what she said. He bowed his head in thought. After a while, he asked, You black elves have fought against the merpeople, what do you think of their combat power? This is Su Ming's biggest concern right now. Although Shuiyu Island has joined the black elves, the territorial strength can no longer be measured by grades. But the strength of the merman is also a lesson from the past. You were able to fight against the black elves before, how much has your strength improved now? There is no certainty of this, and there is no place to obtain information that can be consulted. Therefore, we can only learn from the information of the black elves when they fought against the enemy. Sophie heard Su Ming's plan. So he replied, Back then, our black elves just moved to Gear Forest, and the territorial strength level was only level 30. But with the help of the power of the equipment, in the end, it successfully resisted the invasion of the merpeople. And as far as I know, the mermen are not good at fighting on land, and their skills are mostly related to water. The place where we fought is in the middle of the Great Gear Forest, where there is not much water resources and their strengths cannot be fully utilized. But now, we are in Shuiyu Island, surrounded by sea, how much their strength can be increased, I can't say for sure. Between the words, Sophie was still very afraid of the mermen. Obviously, they must have paid a great price for repelling the mermen at the beginning. In the past 20 years, after developing the territorial power to level 50, perhaps he dared to relax. What is the level of the equipment of your black elves? How powerful is it? What is the range? Su Ming heard Sophie say that the black elves use the power of equipment, and suddenly had an idea in her heart. Hearing Su Ming's words, Sophie's heart skipped a beat. But it was soon accepted. Now that the two forces have gradually merged, why do you still want to do that? Master Wei, most of our equipment is Tier 3, with 3 siege equipment and 4 defensive equipment reaching Tier 4. In terms of power, the power of Tier 3 equipment can level a small hill, and Tier 4 equipment can directly break the defensive barrier of Tier 15 territorial forces. Su Ming was shocked. Tier 4 can break the defensive barrier. Wouldn't that damage tens of thousands? Even Shu Chu, recovering his 60th level attributes, would probably only be able to withstand 2 or 3 shots. As for the 3rd order and 4th order in Sophie's mouth, this is the level of the equipment. It also corresponds to the difficulty of manufacturing. 3rd order equipment, non-senior blacksmiths, high-level drafters, and high-level alchemists cannot work together to create them. Similarly, the 4th order requires special talents at the master level to be able to manufacture. There is a black elf in the Black Elves who is a master-level draftsman and a master-level alchemist at the same time, but unfortunately, they lack a master-level blacksmith. Therefore, the 4th order equipment is very rare, and they are successfully manufactured after many failures. Sophie continued. The 3rd order range has 1,000, and the 4th order has 1,500. There are a total of 300 Tier 3 equipment. If the adults need it, I can transfer it directly. However, for Tier 4 equipment, you may have to ask her Lady Queen for instructions first. Su Ming's face was filled with joy, and his heart was determined. He waved his hand and said, no need for the 4th order ones, you can get 100 of your 3rd order equipment, and at the same time send the equipment making talents to Shuiyu Island. I'll have them all upgraded to Tier 4. By the way, do you have the materials to upgrade to Tier 4? Sophie was taken aback, as if she had heard some unbelievable news. Get 100, all to level 4, how could such a thing be said so easily? It took them 10 years for the Black Elves to manufacture 7 4th order equipment. Sophie was a little suspicious that Su Ming was talking big. But she didn't know that in Su Ming's territory, there was no shortage of high-level talents. You can get a recruiting opportunity every 5 levels of the forge. Right now, there are already 20 master-level talents, and the remaining 10 are senior talents. Coupled with the manufacturing talents of the Black Elves, it is really possible to raise 100 machines to the 4th rank. Hearing Su Ming question, Sophie responded, we have the materials, and we will send them together when the time comes. That's good. Su Ming breathed a sigh of relief. He doesn't know what the 4th order materials are, but he knows that it is definitely not cheap and must be scarce. If he wants to find it now, it is estimated that before he can find it, the merpeople will come to commit the crime. Go down and make arrangements, and make sure to handle this matter as quickly as possible. Sophie quit. Sophie stepped back. Watching Sophie's figure disappear, Su Ming sat on the chair and tapped the wooden table with his fingers rhythmically. After a while, he called out, Shu Chu, you go and find Lao Huang, I have something to ask him. Yes, Shu Chu took the order and left quickly. After a while, Huang-san was directly carried by Shu Chu to the lobby. Yes, just carry it. Because Shu Chu thought Huang-san was walking too slowly, it would be faster. This also made him suffer from Huang-san's scorn. But after meeting Su Ming, Huang-san didn't care too much about it. Shu Chu put Huang-san down and went out again. Sir, what are you looking for from me? In contrast, Huang-san and Su Ming get along more casually. Sit down and talk, there are some things I want to ask you about the mermen and mermaids. Huang-san is known as the master of all things in the virtual world, and the knowledge reserve in his mind is amazing. Su Ming also just remembered, and if you don't know anything, you can ask Huang-san. Huang-san was not polite and sat down directly. Sir, may I ask you? I want to know, what level of power is the Merman clan? It's level 60 in the sea, but when it gets to land, it will shrink a lot, at least 10 levels down. Aren't the mermen not good at equipment? Previously. After thinking about it for a while, Huang-san responded and added, as for now, I don't know either. The information I know is those that have been circulated, and a little is about the secrets of various races. 20 years ago, the mermen were dissatisfied with the relocation of the Black Elves, so they wanted to expel the Black Elves from the Great Forest of Gear. But they were repelled by the Black Elves with equipment, and then they left the waters near Shuiyu Island. However, with the previous lessons, the current mermaid might have really developed equipment. I heard it when I came here just now. Are you worried about the mercenary coming, my lord? Su Ming nodded. Just be prepared. The mermen originally lived in the sea, but they could not tolerate the Black Elves living in the Great Forest of Gear at all, and their domineering behavior was evident. Now that the traces of the merpeople have been discovered, Su Ming has to be on guard. If possible, he would like to strike first. How much do you know about the information about the mermaid? Hearing Su Ming asking about the mermaid, Huang-san immediately guessed Su Ming's plan. Compared with the merman race, the power is slightly weaker, and the level is 55. However, it is impossible for the mermen to destroy the mermaid. Black Elves are level 50, mermaids are level 55, and mermen are level 60. Between these three, the level is inexplicably similar, and it happens to be the level of the leader. However, the level 50 forces of the Black Elves are somewhat watery. High-end combat power is extremely lacking. As far as Su Ming knew, the only ones above level 50 were Tia and Priest Fra. A fault occurs directly below. The highest level is Sophie, who is level 35, followed by the 4 generals and a group of elders who have been transferred for the second time. The others are all at level 30, but have not changed careers twice, and those below level 30. Such a force, if it is not supported by equipment, is estimated to not reach the level of 50. How about the high-end combat power of the merman and the mermaid, do you know? Huang-san replied. It is rumored that the merman has a level 70 ancestor, but it hasn't appeared in decades. The contemporary merman king is level 60, and the mermaid king is level 55. In terms of high-end combat power, there are 3 mermaids at level 60, a dozen at level 50 or above, hundreds at level 40 or more, and thousands at level 30 or above. The power of the mermaid is comparable to that of the merman. There are also 3 level 60s, and the middle level combat power is even greater than the number of the merman. Su Ming was secretly shocked. It seemed that he was still misled by the false combat power of the Black Elves. Originally, I thought that the highest level of the merman race was similar to Tia, but I didn't expect that it was only the level of generals. Thinking of it this way, there must be other reasons why the Black Elves were able to repel the mermaid 20 years ago, and it is impossible to rely on the power of the equipment alone. And the best answer is naturally the mermaid. Is the mermaid family related to the Black Elves? Su Ming guessed. If the mermaid clan pulls the back legs of the merman clan, then the merman clan will naturally not be able to destroy the Black Elves. Your lord guessed it well. Huang-san replied with a smile. The relationship between the mermaid and the Black Elves is that Miss Tia and the contemporary king of the mermaid met. Tia. Su Ming frowned slightly. Is this Tia related to another force? My lord, I don't know. The king of the contemporary mermaid clan is named Hermes Sea Maiden Sistana, who was studying in the royal city with Miss Tia. At that time, there were 2 other people from the dragon clan who were in contact with them, and the 4 were like sisters. It is known as the 4 golden shoe of the royal city, and it ranks among the 10 beauties of the royal city. Su Ming also heard about the dragon clan thing from Ku Wanru. So no surprise. It's just that this Tia is still close to the dragon clan. It seems that she has a lot of secrets. Old Huang, you say, if I ask people to find the mermaid for cooperation, what is the success rate? After thinking for a while, Su Ming asked Huang-san. Huang-san had long guessed that Su Ming would ask this question, and said to himself, if it's up to me, 100%. Do you know water? Su Ming looked at Huang-san in surprise. Huang-san's face stiffened, and he shook his head in embarrassment. He can do a lot of things, but he just doesn't know how to water. And now they have no way to contact the mermaid, they can only ask the Black Elves. Otherwise, you'll have to find it yourself. Those who go there must not only know water, but also have the ability to move freely underwater. As it happens, Su Ming's subordinates really have a suitable candidate now, and that is the newly summoned concubine Mi. As a water god, concubine Mi's combat power in the water does not have to worry at all. Huang Sandao. If it wasn't for me, the difference would not be big, and the success rate would also be 70%. And as long as we reveal our relationship with the Black Elves to the mermaid, the success rate can reach 90%. Su Ming nodded. Since that's the case, then I'll ask Tia first to see if there is any contact information. If not, I'll have someone go in person. Su Ming also did what he said, and left directly to find Tia. After asking, I found out that Tia had not been in contact with the mermaid for several years. Now the contact information has been broken, and I can only go to the sea to find it. Fortunately, some of the Black Elves still knew about the territorial status of the mermaid Qian Zhao. Su Ming found concubine Mi and asked her to take the people from the Black Elves to the mermaid to discuss. This time I went to the mermaid tribe to seek cooperation. Remember not to be too tough, but also not weak. If you can succeed, you will succeed. If you can't, there is no cabinet. Su Ming instructed concubine Mi. You can think of this act as saying hello. As long as you don't anger the mermaid, the rest doesn't matter. Now I am worried about the mermen, and if I anger another mermaid, it will be troublesome. As for the friendship between the mermaid and the Black Elves, Su Ming didn't think much about it. Tia has not been in contact with the mermaid for several years, who knows how much incense love is left. Go on, get down on the road. Su Ming habitually asked. After hearing this, concubine Mi was overjoyed and withdrew with a rosy face. Not many people went there this time, and only 5 people led the way with the Black Elves. When there are too many people, it is easy to be exposed to the eyes of the mermen. Naturally, it is better to have more things than less things. At night, Su Ming finished his affairs and returned to his room. Thinking about the current situation of Shuiyu Island and the future development direction. It is still the same problem as before. There are high-end talents in the territory, and there are many. But there is not enough population base. Although there are Black Elves and Goblins to supplement it now, it will still be difficult to build Shuiyu Island for a while. Although there is a reason that Su Ming walked too fast. Now they have begun to develop into towns, and the so-called competition of new forces has long been forgotten. I saw the equipment of the Black Elves, and encountered the invasion of pirates. Now that the mermen have appeared again, they are likely to be eyeing Shuiyu Island. And when I asked Tia about the contact information of the mermaid in the afternoon, Tia still had the heart to mention the previous pirates. Su Ming also knew that hundreds of nautical miles away, there were such forces as the 36 Thieves. Now Su Ming has high-end combat power in his hands, but he can't let them go out to fight. As the saying goes, no matter how high your kung fu is, you are also afraid of kitchen knives. Ants will kill elephants, and chaotic fists can kill old masters. To release high-end combat power to attack other forces rashly, this is undoubtedly an idea that only idiots have. Level 60 is very good. That's not enough to resist the indiscriminate bombardment of siege equipment. Level 70 is fine, but can you guarantee that other forces will have no trump cards? Level 80 can only run rampant, but this kind of existence is not in Su Ming's hands. Now Su Ming's high-end combat power is only 3.5. The 3 are Shu Chu, Baelzer Bu, Mi Fei, and Tu Shan Yaya is half of them. In addition, Tia's level is a little higher. But now Tia has long been played bad. And she is now the woman of Su Ming, and also the queen of the Black Elves. Of course it is impossible to go to the battlefield. Alas, this hanging is still a little low. If you don't have enough bullshit, how can it be worth the accumulation of hundreds of years of others? Destiny talent allows Su Ming to develop rapidly, and at the same time has the ability to protect himself in the territory. But the limitation is that you can't get out of the territory. Once outside the territory, all effects are greatly reduced. Summoning talent can quickly make up for the combat power of his territory, but the time is too short. And it's not always possible to recruit combat talents. For example, Nakiri Arena is a typical life talent. Lu Bowen is also a management talent. This time it took up 2 summoning opportunities. And now the luck value is still recovering, the blessing skill can't be used, and Su Ming's summoning chance tomorrow depends on luck. In the final analysis, time is too short. In less than 2 weeks, the development was so fast that it was targeted by the forces before it was fully prepared. But this is also something that can't be done, and it can't help but develop, right? However, the other new forces are still rushing around at level 10, and Su Ming is already at level 20. In this way, it is actually worthwhile to attract coveted by other forces. And not incapable of fighting the enemy. As long as Su Ming is given 3 more days, he is confident that he can match the level 60 forces in terms of combat power. Because of the 4th order equipment, it only takes 3 days to create 10 frames. Combined with the reorganized army in the territory, it is completely able to deal with the merpeople. After thinking for a long time, Su Ming was also sleepy. In the past few days, he has changed his lazy appearance from before, and it is true that he is a little uncomfortable. He said to himself, "Go to sleep, I hope tomorrow will produce a good product, and I hope to awaken a practical talent next week." 5. Now for Su Ming, the first thing he lacks is time, and the second thing he lacks is his own strength. No matter how strong other people are, they can't compare to their own strength. The magic ball has been filled by the Black Elves. This can also be regarded as an improvement in Su Ming's strength. Just when I was about to fall asleep, someone suddenly knocked on the door. Hearing that the voice was Bai Ling, Su Ming asked her to come in directly. On his own, he fell asleep. But after a while, Su Ming suddenly realized something was wrong. He smelled a different fragrance from Bai Ling. And he also knew who was carrying the scent. Turn around and look. Under the weak light of the crystal ball, Tia was wearing a thin white pajamas and looked at Su Ming at a loss. His face was as rosy as a ripe apple, his straight and slender legs were intertwined, and his toes gripped the ground uneasily. The concave and convex figure is beautiful under the light. But unfortunately, Su Ming is abstinent these 2 days. And really tired, and now just want to sleep. Even if the fox spirit Daji was brought in, he still just wanted to sleep. Seeing Tia standing there motionless, Su Ming shouted, "Why are you still standing? Not sleeping?" Hearing Su Ming's voice, Tia was startled and her heart began to tremble. Today she was pulled over by Bai Ling. Of course, the culprit was not Bai Ling, but Sophie and the elders of the Black Elves. The high-level leaders of the Black Elves knew that Ku Wanru would be Su Ming's wife. In this regard, they still have many dissatisfaction. Why is their queen not the wife? So for a while, they even had the idea of forcing the palace to make Tia the wife. But after seeing Balzabu and Mi Fei in the morning, they suddenly became miserable. After all, the deterrent power of high-end combat power is still there. So, they turned to find a way to make their queen more favored. This will also provide them with convenience and even privileges in the territory. For this reason, they all brazenly went to Ku Wanru, and by the way, they took Sophie, a high-ranking general. Ku Wanru finally reluctantly agreed with their pleas. But he was not easy to come forward, so he asked Bai Ling to bring Tia. So, there is now a scene. As the queen of the Black Elves, Tia has no intention of being a director. But if it can benefit the race, she is still willing to do it. Moreover, this is also within her ability. Outsiders know that she is already Su Ming's person, she herself doesn't know why, and she doesn't resist much. It's like she used to fall in love with Tia, and now she likes to paint Yaya. Like her temperament, her heart is always changing. Especially after being frightened by the scene of Su Ming punishing Tu Shan Yaya, she no longer dared to raise a trace of resistance to Su Ming. Then there was the incident of the second maid and the husband, which made her break the defense in an instant. The nostalgia for Tia and Tushan Yaya in my heart suddenly began to fade for some unknown reason. Now, there is only one thought in her mind, and that is that she is Su Ming's woman. Seeing Su Ming speak, Tia just walked over step by step. After a minute, Su Ming looked tired, got up directly, hugged Tia and threw it on the bed. Then he pulled the quilt, hugged Tia and started to sleep soundly. For him, hugging anyone is a hug, Bai Ling or Tia, it is no different. Tia was a little trembling at first, and I don't know if it was fear or excited anticipation. But soon, she noticed that the breathing of Su Ming holding her became very rhythmic, apparently falling asleep. Tia breathed a sigh of relief, but there was also a hint of loss in her heart. It startled her. His face flushed, and he hurriedly said to himself, Tia, you are so shameless, what are you expecting? After several psychological struggles, Tia was finally tired and fell into a deep sleep. With Su Ming by her side, she can feel a full sense of security. After all, Su Ming is also the one who can take her down alone. This night, some people fell asleep peacefully, but others were busy. A fish-headed man entered the territory of the mermen. There is also a stunning woman who has entered the territory of the murlocs. Last day of the second week. In the morning, Su Ming woke up and saw Tia tightly in his arms. With that delicate and attractive face, Su Ming couldn't help being a little crazy for a while. Went up for a kiss. With a smile on Tia's face, she didn't wake up, as if she was dreaming. Su Ming rolled over and got out of bed. After going out to wash briefly, he started running in the morning on Shuiyu Island. When I came back, I happened to meet Nikiri Arena and called for breakfast. After a simple meal, it begins to summon. Whether to summon. Call. Ding. Summoning talent activated. It's still the same. First extract the summoning plane. The last screen stops. Sure enough, it was another unfamiliar plane. Legend of Sword and Fairy. Su Ming clicked summon again. Ding. Congratulations on getting one of the 7 sages of Shushan, Li Xiaoyao. Name. Li Xiaoyao. Age. 60 years old. Identity. Swordsman carried by plane. Level. Level 70. Qualification. SSS Seal of the Lord. Occupation. Sword Immortal carried by plane. Equipment. Immortal Sword carried by plane. Loyalty. 100 full. Skills. Swordsmanship. Wanjian Ju. Wine Sword. Heavenly Sword. Sword God Passive. Happy Sword Ju Exclusive Skill. Introduction. He was originally a junior in a country inn shop. He was talented and intelligent. Later, he got the chance and experienced many hardships to grow into a generation of legendary heroes. Hint. Summoned by Su Ming, the lord of the farming tribe, from the legend of Sword and Fairy, eliminating the memory of the past life and retaining the instinct and character. A Shengxia plane should pay great attention to strength. But the ones that can be summoned still haven't exceeded level 70, is there any restriction here? Su Ming was a little skeptical. But in the introduction of the summoning talent, there is no explanation about this situation. It stands to reason that there should be no restrictions. However, until now, a level 80 character has not been summoned. However, doubts turned into doubts, and Su Ming was still very happy to be able to summon a high-level combat power. And this time Su Ming also saw 2 entries that he had not seen before. Equipment, swords, and exclusive skills. He had seen the exclusive skill on Booze, and this was the first time he had seen it on a character. But this summons the equipment that comes with the character, which can't help but brighten his eyes. Take a closer look at the properties of this equipment. Immortal Sword, exclusive item, attack power plus 3000 plus character level 10, you can use swordsmanship to fly. The attributes are not outrageous, and it is just right to match the level 70 Li Xiaoyao. The flyable effect attached to the back made Su Ming's heart flutter. But unfortunately, this equipment is an exclusive item. Soon, a middle-aged man with a dignified appearance and extraordinary temperament with a long sword appeared in front of Su Ming. 60-year-old Li Xiaoyao doesn't look old at all. Under Li Xiaoyao, I have seen Lord. Master Li is very polite. After a few simple greetings, Su Ming instructed, go to Mr. Liu, the General Secretary, and he will arrange a suitable position for you. Yes, I will retire. After Li Xiaoyao left, Su Ming also started to do his own thing. After a morning, concubine Mi came back with good news. The mermaid agreed to cooperate and was willing to take action to hold back the merman. What is the attitude of the mermaid? They are happy to work together. Are there any conditions? Su Ming looked at concubine Mi and asked. They didn't put any conditions, but they had a request. What request? They hope that after this cooperation is over, they can borrow siege equipment and high-end combat power from us, and they also promise to pay us. Afraid of Su Ming's misunderstanding, concubine Mi hurriedly added, of course, I didn't promise them directly. Siege equipment can not only be used on land, but can also be used underwater. It's just that if the strength of the siege equipment is not enough, it is difficult to cause a substantial blow underwater. Therefore, what the mermaid should borrow must be the fourth-order siege equipment of the Black Elves. As for why the Black Elf's equipment was borrowed from Su Ming, perhaps he saw the problem from the Black Elf who led the way. Coupled with the strength of concubine Mi, this made the fish people directly realize that the Black Elves had been recruited. And the high-end combat power is naturally concubine Mi and others. The matter of borrowing equipment and people will be discussed later. How about the specific content of this cooperation? Su Ming wasn't stupid enough to agree directly. Siege equipment is a weapon of mass destruction. What if the other party does not return it after borrowing it? Or if the other party destroys the merman, and turns around and cleans him directly, Su Ming, that would be a cocoon. After all, it was an unknown force, so Su Ming couldn't trust it. I didn't talk much about this with them, because there were some things I didn't dare to make decisions on my own. So I want a communication crystal ball of the mermaid tribe. This thing can directly allow adults to communicate with each other. As she spoke, Mi Fei took out a basketball-sized crystal ball and placed it on the table in front of Su Ming. Go. According to concubine Mi's guidance, Su Ming opened the crystal ball. Soon, a picture came. Hermes Hanyo Sistana in the body of a mermaid sat sideways on the king chair, surrounded by dazzling spar and colorful coral embellishments. As the king of the mermaid clan, Sistana's beauty is naturally nothing to say, and it is not inferior to concubine Mi and others. Mermaid. Su Ming saw Sistana's appearance and thought of a real-world legend. However, Su Ming only stopped for a short while on his appearance, and then opened his mouth to greet him. Hi Hermes, hello, let me introduce myself, I am the Lord of Shuiyu Island, Su Ming. Hello, Su Ming, Sistana responded with a smile, her voice clear and sweet. Su Ming couldn't help but feel frightened, as expected of a race with the saying, Song of the Siren is breathtaking. This sound really deserves it. Since His Royal Highness has agreed to cooperate, then I will see the matter straight to the point. I don't know how much troops Your Highness is willing to send to deal with the merpeople. The merman and the merman have not fought for several years, and now Su Ming is not sure how much the merman is willing to contribute. It is obviously unrealistic to devote all the power of the whole family. Unless the mermaid tribe sees the hope of perishing the merman tribe. Then it depends on how much the adults want us to hold back the merpeople. Sistana responded with a smile, and threw the question back to Su Ming. At the same time, she was also watching Su Ming's reaction carefully. I want to see information about Su Ming's character from it. But unfortunately, Su Ming's face was as usual. After just thinking about it, he responded, in fact, I'm just planning ahead for the mermaid incident this time. Even if they really want to commit a crime, they will definitely not dispatch the whole clan, am I right? There is a mermaid next to the merman's territory, so naturally they will not be stupid enough to ignore their mortal enemy for the sake of a small force on Shuiyu Island. In other words, in their eyes, the power of Shuiyu Island is dispensable. The more purpose may be the Black Elves, in order to avenge their revenge 20 years ago. That's why Sistana said that she wanted them to hold back almost 1% of the strength of the merpeople, which obviously overstated her role. Add some credit to yourself that doesn't belong. Because regardless of whether the mermaid can make a move, the merman will take precautions against it. And if Su Ming admits this credit, it may become a bargaining chip for them to talk about borrowing equipment and manpower later. Now that Su Ming euphemistically pointed it out, Sistana could only smile indifferently, tacitly admitting 9. If the mermen are really going to attack Shuiyu Island, we are willing to hold back the high-end combat power of the 7th floor of the mermen, what do you think? Sistana suggested. 70% of the high-end combat power, this can suddenly reduce the combat power that the merpeople can send. It will even make the merpeople hesitate to stop attacking Shuiyu Island. Sistana thought this proposal was sincere enough. Unexpectedly, Su Ming shook his head. It seems that His Royal Highness's thoughts are always different from me. Oh, what do you think, the Lord? Sistana looked at Su Ming with interest. Think differently. Su Ming, a lord of a small power, still wants to swallow the merman. Why? By the Black Elves. But it is impossible for all the Black Elves to defend Shuiyu Island. Otherwise, what about the base camp of the Great Forest of Gear? Sistana couldn't see Su Ming's mind for a while. She would never have thought that Su Ming really had the idea of destroying the merman. If possible, he also wants to destroy the mermaid. It's the same reason that the mermen attacked the Black Elves 20 years ago. Su Ming also didn't want to have other powerful forces around his own territory. Of course, this idea can only be in the heart, it is impossible to say it. My idea is that after the mermen come to attack Shueyu Island, we will try our best to hold back the merpeople. If possible, it will also be designed to let them continue to reinforce the troops here, so that the base camp of the merpeople is bound to be empty. When the time comes, Your Highness should know what to do. Su Ming speaks amazingly. Sistana was taken aback by Su Ming's words. What, sir, are you sure you can resist the attack of the merpeople? For a while, Sistana suspected that Su Ming's plan was to use the fourth order equipment of the Black Elves. But how many Tier 4 equipment can resist the attack of the mermen? If it was before, it might be possible, but Sistana knows that the merpeople have put a lot of effort into the development of equipment in recent years. This also makes their mermaid tribe also vigorously develop equipment. So Sistana thought that Su Ming was a little arrogant. Your Highness doesn't need to worry about this matter, I will naturally be responsible for what I say. Su Ming didn't say anything to Sistana. Do you tell her that she has the confidence to create a large number of Tier 4 equipment? Or do you mean that you now have another high-end combat force under your command? The relationship hasn't reached that level yet, so Su Ming naturally won't be an idiot. Suspicion flashed in Sistana's eyes. Suddenly, she thought of concubine Mi's appearance, and then thought of herself. Could it be that this lord wants to be handsome in front of him? Show his strength. But that would be too ignorant, wouldn't it? Push your power into the abyss. Every beautiful woman will not show off her appearance, but also will not doubt her appearance. It is normal for Sistana to have such narcissistic thoughts. But out of good intentions, Sistana thought she still had to remind Su Ming. After all, we are talking about cooperation now. My lord, I have something to tell you. In the past 20 years, the merpeople have also been developing equipment. You may need to be careful in your plans. Sistana's hint was also very euphemistic, as if to express that she did not intend to interfere with Su Ming's decision-making. Su Ming frowned. Seeing this, Sistana breathed a sigh of relief. It seems that the Lord still has a brain and listens to advice. She really didn't want to cooperate with a mindless lord. But Sistana misunderstood again. Su Ming frowned, misunderstanding what Sistana said. 20 years of vigorous development of equipment. Is there a lot of fourth order equipment in the merman race? Should not be. If there are a lot of fourth order equipment in the mermen, there should be a lot of murlocs too. Why did the murlocs even propose borrowing equipment? Could it be that he really has thoughts on Shueyu Island, in order to weaken the strength of Shueyu Island? Su Ming is different from Sistana, he always likes to think about the worst. At this moment, his wariness towards the mermaid race also increased a little. If Sistana knew of her kind reminder, it would make Su Ming doubt her purpose, wondering if she would vomit blood. All doubts arise from ignorance. Su Ming was also reminded by Sistana, and made up his mind to let his subordinates rush to work after a while. Be sure to build a few more Tier 4 equipment to be prepared. There was an idea in his heart, but Su Ming didn't look any different on the surface, and responded with a smile, "Thank you, Your Highness, for the reminder. However, my thoughts will not change, it's just that when the time comes, I hope His Highness can do more. It must be a good thing for His Highness after the severe damage to the merpeople, and it will be a lot easier to destroy it later." Sistana was taken aback. Unexpectedly, Su Ming did not listen to his advice. Could it be that he really cares about his own face so much that he is afraid of losing face in front of him? For a while, Su Ming was ruthlessly labeled arrogant and lecherous by Sistana. Since persuasion was useless, Sistana did not insist. In this case, the mermaid will definitely cooperate with the adults. I just hope that the adults can do what they say, and can really hold back the merpeople. If it is allowed to return, my mermaid clan will also suffer great losses. The meaning of the words is naturally to want Su Ming to fight against the mermen with all his strength, and to ensure that the mermaid's sneak attack can be safe. Su Ming knew this very well and didn't say anything. His current purpose is mainly to guard against the mermen. If the merpeople do not come, then he can develop with peace of mind. Everything I said to the mermaid before will become empty words. If the mermen come, then it will be carried out according to the plan, and the big deal is to temporarily give the mermen a chance. As long as Su Ming is famous, he can also get time to develop. After the power is strong to a certain point, it is not too late to go to the mermaid to settle accounts. It's natural, Su Ming responded with a smile. When Sistana listened to Su Ming's words, she felt a lot more at ease. This is the end. Then Sistana asked, I don't know, how is the proposal I made to the messenger sent by your lord before, how is your consideration? The proposal is to borrow equipment and manpower. His Royal Highness is willing to pay the reward. How much is the reward? For a Tier 4 device, we have provided 10 million resources, and if it is damaged in our hands, we will compensate according to the price. Sistana ruffled her hair, and her eyebrows shone with a strange luster. The body twisted inadvertently, as if seducing Su Ming. It's a pity that Su Ming was blind and didn't see it. However, what she said made Su Ming's face stiff, and his smile was a little unnatural. 10 million resources, when I Su Ming have not seen the world. There is also compensation according to the price after the damage. Where can the fourth order equipment be sold? For something that has no market, should compensation be paid according to the price? Obviously this is suspected of cheating. It seems that this matter is still too hasty. Your Highness may not know the situation of the Black Elves. 5. Then let's talk about it later, let's deal with the merman first. Wish us a happy cooperation in advance. Su Ming is not a hesitant character. Since the other party is not sincere, he is not polite. Directly cut off Sistana's thoughts. As for the remuneration for borrowing manpower, he didn't want to hear it. When Sistana heard Su Ming mention the words, Black Elves, she felt bad. Sure enough, Su Ming directly rejected her proposal. Then she couldn't help but feel surprised again. The temptation just now didn't work. Should not be Isn't this guy lustful? How is it possible to keep such a clear mind? However, Su Ming has already refused. She knows that it is meaningless to say more at this time. It seems that we can only talk about it after we have dealt with the merpeople. Sistana thought to herself. At the same time, he responded with a smile, happy cooperation. It's just that this smile is a little bit stronger. Communication was cut off. Su Ming was not angry for the first time, but still stared at the crystal ball. He was using this thing for the first time, and he was not sure if the black screen meant that both parties were disconnected. Concubine Mi said curiously, Sir. Su Ming turned his head and asked Concubine Mi, is this thing broken? No, I can't see the other side, but the other side can still see me, right? As soon as Su Ming said this, Concubine Mi immediately stepped forward to check. On the other side of the crystal ball link, Sistana also quickly cut off the communication. Just now, it is exactly as Su Ming said. Su Ming's side is disconnected, and the screen is black. But Sistana could still see Su Ming. Sistana's heart skipped a beat when she heard Su Ming say those words. Disconnect immediately. It seems that the previous judgment was wrong. This person is not an idiot. At least this suspicion is still very serious. Sistana sighed softly. At this moment, the dragon girl Amikiri ran over with a smile. Sister Nana, are you done? Sistana's face changed and she nodded with a smile. After Concubine Mi checked, she nodded to Su Ming and said, My lord, I have already died. Only then did Su Ming feel relieved. Turning to anger, he said, This narrow-minded woman is really greedy to death. Concubine Mi was stunned for a moment, and asked curiously, Why did your lord say this? The queen of the mermaid race has come for the best interests of their race from the very beginning. Su Ming sighed faintly and explained to Concubine Mi, When discussing cooperation just now, I have already explained the methods and follow-up arrangements. If it's implemented successfully, then the results are pretty obvious. The mermaid has won a great victory, and at the same time, they can plunder the territory of the merman. But this benefit, the queen of the mermaid clan did not mention it at all, and had no intention of taking a share of the pie. It's a shame that I still find her to work with her. It's really a wedding dress for others. That mermaid is so excessive. Concubine Mi was also angry. Why don't we find them to cooperate? Su Ming shook his head helplessly. Now, we can't find a more suitable ally than the mermaid. The mermaid tribe has also decided on this point, and we don't dare to offend them at this time, so it's better not to talk about the interests. After all, this benefit only needs to pass through their hands. And even if we don't ask them to cooperate, they can still wait for the opportunity when the mermen send troops to attack Shueyu Island. If I were them, I would do the same. However, now that they don't get a share of the pie, don't blame me for being cruel behind me. Su Ming is not a master who is willing to suffer. If the mermaid tribe wants to destroy the merman tribe, they will eventually ask Su Ming. When concubine Mi heard Su Ming's last words, she felt relieved and smiled. It was soon evening. The 3 new S-level forces of the Dragon Kingdom contacted again to discuss the results. The final conclusion is that Ryadov still cannot be contacted. Zhang Susu looked at the third person who was only 5,000 different from her power value with a heavy expression. After thinking for a long time, she made a decision. Tomorrow, gather all the lords whose seal of lords has negative effects, and collectively target the third. Okay, miss. Jin Yuya responded with a smile. Listen to you. Ji Yu Xingning had no objection. Seeing this, Ji Yu Xingning suddenly mentioned another matter. I don't know if you have noticed that there is a faction that has also risen rapidly in the past 2 days, but the ranking of this faction is not high yet. Zhang Susu seemed to remember something when she heard this. You're talking about the 31st Sericulture tribe. Yes, this faction was still out of the 50th place a few days ago, but in just these 2 days, it rushed to the 31st. What are you guys saying? Jin Yuya asked curiously. Obviously, unlike Zhang Susu and Ji Yu Xingning, she did not notice the rapid rise of the new force of the Silkworm tribe. Little poor milk, we are talking about a new force on the leaderboard. Ji Yu Xingning responded with a smile. Jin Yuya immediately glared at each other, and then opened the ranking list with a curious expression. 21st. Silkworm tribe, Donglan continent, with a power value of 23,000. Oh, you said this. Jin Yuya suddenly realized, his tone disapproved. Ji Yu Xingning and Zhang Susu were both surprised. Does Jin Yuya have any other information? Yi, have you found anything? Zhang Susu asked. He never thought that Jin Yuya would directly shake his head. No, I don't like the name of this faction, it looks rustic at first glance. Quote exclamation mark exclamation mark exclamation mark quote quote. Ji Yu Xingning and Zhang Susu's expressions instantly froze. We're talking about power, you look at the name. The two gave no hope for Jin Yuya, and began to communicate on their own. Jin Yuya pouted in disgust when he found out that he had been left to the side. On a whim, I sent a communication request to this force. Unexpectedly, there was a response soon. The conversation between Zhang Susu and Ji Yu Xingning ended immediately. After a while, the communication between Jin Yuya and Ku Wanru ended. Hey, don't talk about it, this person belongs to our Dragon Kingdom, I asked. Jin Yuya looked at the two with a look of credit. Zhang Susu and Ji Yu Xingning, nonsense. We all saw it. Ji Yu Xingning couldn't help but said, little poor milk, can you stop being so reckless in the future? It looks like you are stupid, and it makes our discussion redundant. Your discussions are already boring. Jin Yuya responded unconvinced. Zhang Susu and Ji Yu Xingning were directly speechless, and then the discussion broke up unhappily. The two also added Ku Wanru's communication after hanging up. Water Moon Island. Ku Wanru was walking with Su Ming when she received a communication from Jin Yuya. Her first reaction was to look at Su Ming. Su Ming nodded and said, it doesn't matter, my power will be announced when it reaches level 20, and I will get in touch with them at that time. Only then did Ku Wanru feel relieved. Later, they learned that Jin Yuya was also a force of the Dragon Kingdom. At this moment, the two of them could be considered to be in contact with the base camp. Immediately after, 2 more forces added her communication. At night, Bai Ling is sleeping with him tonight. This time, Ku Wanru's abstinence order is invalid. It was also on this night that the people of Sakura country finally contacted their only S-rank Lord's Seal Awakener, Ichiro Okamoto. Ichiro Okamoto has been catching fish for nearly 2 weeks, and finally got to the 3rd level in the territory. The first thing to do is to contact people you know, and ask them to add a buff to yourself tomorrow. Those who learned of his situation were shocked, they thought Ichiro Okamoto was gone. unexpectedly still alive. However, he did not refuse his request. They believe in the strong, and believe that as long as Ichiro Okamoto gets through the immediate difficulties, the rest of the time will surely rise rapidly. After all, where is the talent level gap? 36 islands, the largest Ghost King Island. Several pirates are reporting to the Ghost King. The beauty that Pig King Island said, "Have you checked it out?" Above the hall, there was a throne that was as dark as ink and covered in animal skins. The Ghost King wearing a grimace mask looked coldly at the few orcs kneeling below. One of the orcs trembled and responded, "Your Highness, we were unable to enter the waters of Shueyu Island due to some reasons." Another echoed, "It was a woman, an extremely beautiful woman, who blocked our way." Another voice, "Yes, yes, that woman is wandering outside the sphere of influence of Shueyu Island, and it seems that she has been injured. And we can't really see the strength of that person, and we suspect that she is a person from the Shueyu Island faction." Quote. The people below said a lot, but the Ghost King at the top asked in a deep voice, "How beautiful is that beauty? It's really like the information on Pig King Island, I haven't seen it before." The few people below looked at each other and nodded in unison. An orc also took out a picture and handed it to the Ghost King. When the Ghost King saw the picture, he was silent for a long time. In the end, he couldn't help laughing. "Ha ha ha ha, what a godsend to me. Small forces, there is such a beauty. Pass my order and deploy troops tomorrow to go to Shueyu Island." At this time, a person who looked like a military advisor suddenly persuaded, "Your Majesty, will this be too hasty? I haven't found out whether this beauty is from Shueyu Island. Do you still need to explore it? Wandering around Shueyu Island, those who are not Shueyu Island must also be related to Shueyu Island. Go and take down that power, and then ask to find out. But there is a great gear forest near Shueyu Island, where the Black Elves live, and the Black Elves are not weak. I hope the king thinks twice. Black Elves, aren't they in the center of Gore's forest? They dare to come out and trouble me. They are also a 50th level force, so would I be afraid of him?" The Ghost King looked arrogant. The strategist smiled, but still persuaded, "But even if you don't consider the Black Elves, what about the mermaids and mermen? We want to go to Shueyu Island, but we have to pass through their territory. If they take advantage of the fire and loot, we will be the enemy." Hearing that the strategist moved out 2 major forces, the Ghost King put away his lust. He is indeed lecherous, but he is not an idiot and knows how to analyze the stakes. "What do you say, Sergeant? Your Majesty, isn't there a few mermaid people on the Pig King Island today? We might be able to get in touch." "Oh, is there such a thing? Why didn't I hear about it?" The news was received in the afternoon, when the king was accompanying Princess 93, so I put it on hold for the time being, and I am planning to report it now. "That's it, good. Just do as you said. Let that Shueyu Island live for 2 more days, and then I will pick up my 149th princess. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.